What's up, y'all? It's DJ Vlad from Vlad TV. Check out my new episode on the Bootleg Kev podcast.
Hey, before we start the episode, I want to remind everybody, man, we got one of the biggest radio shows in the country, syndicated in almost 100 cities, all over. Shout out to iHeartRadio, all right? Some of the latest cities that we've been able to add, man. I want to give a shout out to 93.9 The Beat in Honolulu. That's right, Hawaii. We over there going crazy. I also want to give a shout out Hot 98.3 in Tucson. Shout out to Tucson going crazy. Also want to give a shout out to Wild 94.1 in Tampa. Going crazy. We just got Richmond. We also just got the good folks in Bakersfield at Hot 104.7. So we're going crazy on the radio with my partner James Andre Jefferson Jr. for the Bootleg Kev Show. So make sure you tune in and you can listen anywhere on that iHeartRadio app. That's right. Let's get into the interview. Bootleg Kev podcast, man. It's finally happened, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
DJ Vlad is here. Welcome. The legend, man.
Thank you.
One of the greatest journalists of all time. One of the greatest interviewers of all time. And one of the most polarizing figures in hip-hop history. Vlad.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. First of all, it's good to see you, man. We obviously talked about this, but there was a little back and forth I had with Rory. We're talking about how when I first started the channel, I had hit you up, and you had turned me down because you were like, the channel's not there yet.
Yeah.
But you're here.
Well, yeah, I mean, because, let's just be honest. Like we only have a certain amount of time.
You got kids.
Yeah.
I got kids.
Yeah, exactly.
We got families.
Yeah.
We got businesses.
Exactly. So it's just sort of like, you want to, it's not, you don't do the interview just for the sake of doing the interview.
For sure.
You do the interview with the intention that's actually going to get out there.
100%.
To a bigger audience and everything else like that. And I was just like, at the time, I'm like, the audience isn't there yet, but I support what you're doing. Let's just keep in contact, and at a later point, we'll do it. I didn't diss you. I didn't be like, nah,
no, for sure.
No.
You explained it.
I'd actually explain it to you.
No, you called me. You called me, and you were like, "Hey, I want to call and tell you this because it might come off the wrong way via text."
Exactly.
But I'm glad you're here, man.
Yeah.
I want to get.
And I told you I would do it.
Yes, and you're here.
And I'm here. And
yes.
I actually reached out to you when I was getting ready to do this promo run. By the way, the Vlad TV YouTube Masterclass is now live.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. I want to get the business out of the way because I'm intrigued by this. Mm-hmm. I've seen like certain master classes where people will talk about like engineering or producing or songwriting or, so is this a master class? Is master class its own company?
No, there is a...
Because I know there's like a thing.
There's a master class company, but it's sort of a general term. It's a
okay, so you're
class.
Providing this through the Vlad subscription?
Yeah,
By the way, I'm a subscriber.
Okay, yeah. So this is...
You made us wait for the Elon Musk dad interview. The subscribers didn't get the whole thing first.
Oh, yeah?
Remember, you put the clip up, but the whole interview didn't drop for the members. But I am a member, so...
No, it did drop for the members.
Yeah, but it didn't...
No, it dropped relatively early. Here's the thing. Sometimes we can't drop it on the first day because we need to get it out quickly, and then editing a whole 2-hour interview kind of takes a while.
Sure.
So sometimes we wait a couple of days. But no, that interview came out relatively early.
Explain the masterclass.
Okay, so on YouTube, there's the public YouTube that everyone can watch. We release, clips and full videos daily. But then maybe about 3 years ago, we started a Vlad TV YouTube membership. So, YouTube has a kind of like a paywall that you could put certain content behind. So we started, for $4.99, when you sign up to this membership, you can get the full interviews usually on the first day that we drop the first clip.
Yep.
Not the first day, usually the first few days. Every so often, it takes a little while, but in general, first day or very, very early. So that's been going for 3 years, and we have thousands and thousands and thousands of paid members.
Yeah.
So that actually turned out to be a great business move, using content that is really, we're going to put out anyways.
Yeah, if anyone's familiar with your format, you'll essentially clip it out.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the full interview drops.
Yeah, so for example, someone like a Boosie that we do like 3-hour interviews with, like that full interview might not drop for a month and a half.
Right.
There might be like 45 clips, before you get the full interview. So if you don't want to wait a month and a half, you just want to spend $5 to get the whole thing early, ad-free, whatever else, that's a cool way to do it. So for a long time, I really thought about kind of elevating it and doing something more serious. A lot of people...
Let me get the mic a little closer.
Yeah, no problem. So like... I had the Vlad Stocks thing for a while.
Which I miss. That was good.
I was going to do that. I was going to actually start a master class that focused on stocks, but I was a little unsure about it because I'm not really an expert on stocks the way some other people are experts. And
Right.
I've done very well. Like, I mean, I've made a lot of money off of investing in stocks. And I've helped a lot of people. I probably helped people make over $10 million.
Right.
Just not, just basically giving them general advice in terms of what I do myself. So I've been kicking around that idea for a long time, but then me and this guy called Lead Attorney, he's been a guest on my show a couple of times. He does these classes and he focuses on YouTube streaming. So me and him got into this long conversation about starting a master class that just focuses on building YouTube channels. And for me, it's like, this is something I felt I really was like a world expert in.
For sure. I mean, you're a pioneer.
Well, I launched in 2008. So right when YouTube started its partner program, Vlad TV launched as a YouTube channel and as a serious YouTube channel.
Yeah.
We were uploading every day. Like we made, DJ Ski, I think, was around.
It was you and Ski.
Yeah, but Ski, I don't think really took it seriously.
It was like music videos.
Yeah,
it was
he
like
would just post every so often. And I even got the idea to call Vlad TV from Ski TV. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of a nice little, this type of kind of ring to it. So, over the course of, this is what, 2008, talking about 17 years of doing this every single day, every single month, every single year, 6 million subscribers, 6 billion views,
Crazy.
Over maybe $30 million in YouTube revenue over the course of that time. I felt like, I think I have something to say, and I think I have really a lot to, put out there to help people. I wish I had this type of class early on. There was like a lot of mistakes that I made over the years. So we launched with 4 classes, and then we're also, with every month, we're going to drop a new class as well as a new interview from a successful YouTuber. So this month we dropped it with academics. So there's a 30-minute academics interview that's not part of
the big interview.
Anything that's been released already, but it's him talking about how he built up his YouTube channel, the most he's made off of a single video, which I think is around $50,000, and why that is, and just sort of the breakdown of how he got to where he is from 0 followers to the 1 million+ followers he has right now. So we have episodes already recorded from like Terrence Gangster Williams, who's like, Birdman's brother, who made like over $300,000 in YouTube out of his bedroom. Trench's News from Chicago that doesn't even show his face.
Right.
But is making over $100,000 a year off of YouTube. So we have these types of exclusive interviews that really focus on the money aspect of it, because the membership is $99.99 a month. So it's $100 a month. So it's not cheap, but if you're serious about making money, you really utilize some of these things, you're going to make way more than $100 a month off of this, whether you're just getting ready to launch a YouTube channel or whether you have a YouTube channel that you're looking to take seriously and improve. Yeah.
So it's a separate membership under the Vlad TV.
Correct.
I didn't know you could do like...
You can do different tiers.
Yeah, that's
There's a $5 tier and then there's a $100 tier. And if you get to the $100 tier, the $5 tier is included.
Right.
So you get the full...
No, I mean, it's smart because like at the end of the day, I do feel like if you talk to any kid these days, I mean, not any kid, obviously, but most kids, they want to be YouTubers. They want to be content creators. I mean, this is kind of the world we're living in, but there isn't a class, per se. You can't go to school for that.
You can't go to school for it, but there are classes out there, but I feel like these are all people that aren't really that successful.
Right. They're like moderately successful.
Yeah, like they have maybe 100,000 followers, and they make a little bit of money and so forth. But to have someone that really comes in, it's like, all right, like I'm literally serving this to millions of people every single day. I have a whole company behind it. I have, and it shows like, okay, like, there's a whole episode about how do you get guests.
Yeah.
And all the different ways as well as all the pitfalls and, the things to avoid. And I talk about how, I was going to pay O.J. Simpson $100,000 for an interview, but they wanted all the money in cash before he even walked in the room. And
that just,
it's like, I mean, there's nothing preventing him from just taking the money and just driving off.
Jetting off,
which is, look, he'd owe tens of millions of dollars when he died.
Right.
There's an episode about the equipment. So it actually, for the first time ever, you actually see, my main studio is in New York. So you actually see the whole Vlad TV New York studio with a breakdown of the equipment we use and everything.
Is that the studio with the drum set?
Well, there's 2 studios with drum sets. The original drum set studio is here in LA.
Because that's an iconic drum
Yeah.
set.
So when we rebuilt the New York studio, we kind of put a drum set there as kind of like
It's like kind of like it's like so random. It's like a random thing to have as like your background, but it's like it's just your thing. Yeah.
But it's music, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So the drums are drums. You know, there's an episode about really kind of how do you structure things before you even start? Like, what do you really focus on? What do you not focus on?
Right.
Like, this is where you could really do well as opposed to, you know, where you could struggle. You know, and I showed examples of like YouTube channels that I had that didn't do well.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, Sneaker Watch.
Yeah, just Sneaker Watch. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it struggled along
it was a site.
for some years.
Yeah.
It was cool, but, you know, I mean, I'm trying to think what the other episodes are. So there's an episode on starting it. There's an episode on equipment. There's an episode on booking guests. And there's an episode on money. So it actually showed there's a breakdown of how one single interview made over $50,000.
One single interview, academics did or you did?
That I did.
Okay.
A Vlad TV, an interview, someone that I interviewed that made, I think, like around $60,000 off of just one interview. One interview.
What? Yeah. The best I ever did, and I want to thank Iman Shumper for helping me buy my crib, but I made about 39 grand off of an Iman Shumper interview if you combined all the clips.
Right.
And it was in December of 2022? 2021? No, 2021. Right around the time me and my wife were looking at houses and shit. And it came right on time.
Yeah.
So shout out to Iman Shumper.
Right.
When did you, because I obviously, the format of doing clips I got from you, you're kind of the father of that, if you ask me. Other channels like Joe Rogan does the same thing, but I feel like you're the first guy to like kind of take a long form, at least in my opinion. Obviously, I'm sure other people did it, but that weren't as successful. But what kind of attracted you to your format that you currently release videos? Because it's very unique, and it works. Like you said, you might wait a month and a half for the full interview, but you're gonna watch each clip.
I mean, it was really just, to me, I looked at the behavior of viewing these videos because, you know, you're going from a format of sitting in your living room and watching TV or watching a DVD.
Right.
And, you know, you're kind of invested. You're in your house, you're sitting on a couch, you might have some food, you might have your family members around. You're prepared to sit down there for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to watch some full long form piece. But the reality is with YouTube, the majority of people were on their phones or on their laptops.
Right.
So is a person really going to hold their phone for an hour and a half?
Right.
Or they're watching a tiny little screen, and back then the screens were smaller and the resolution wasn't as good and so forth? No, I didn't think they would, which is why I was like, well, let me just break it up into pieces. And with those pieces, I will actually focus on the topics and try to really make the titles as strong as possible. So people will watch this particular clip. And over time, people would clip up. You know, clipping is something that was being done by other people
on their channels that you
on their own channel, whether their own. Like this is now common. Like I remember I interviewed Neon recently, and he talked about how he pays hundreds of thousands of dollars for people to clip his stuff.
Right, because he's doing the IRL stuff. So I mean, he's sometimes I'm sure online for hours and hours and hours,
days
and hours
sometimes,
and hours,
right? So it's interesting. Like he's actually paying people to clip. And that in turn draws traffic back into his original content. Whereas with us, it's like, yo, let's take control of the clipping ourselves. Someone else is going to do it anyways.
Yep.
So why shouldn't
benefit?
Why we should have the benefit of this? Like why let other people take our stuff, crop out the logo, throw their own huge logo across,
I hate
and it benefits them.
Yeah.
It doesn't really benefit us. And when people, I'm helping to promote you. No, you're not. You're trying to build your own platform, whether it's an IG page or your Twitter account, and you're getting what you think is free content, and you're putting your own name on it and somewhat hiding where it's actually coming from. You know, and I feel that's almost it's a basic problem in the way content works and social media works, because, you know, when you look at like TikTok, you look at Twitter, I would say the majority of content is stuff that people don't own.
For sure. Yeah, it's a lot of pages and quote unquote platforms that are built off other people's work.
Right. Whereas
you're not creating anything original.
You're not creating anything original. You're just clipping it and putting your logo on it, and then you're then getting views, followers, you know, sponsored posts,
Right.
ad deals, whatever else. So it's like I feel the way it really should work is if you have a piece of content, you should only be able to embed it from the original owner. You shouldn't be able to just rip it and re-upload it and then modify it.
There's such a bottom feeder industry on Instagram now and TikTok that it's like will you, if someone posts something on their YouTube channel where they clip your shit out or maybe they don't give you credit, will you flag it?
Yeah, we strike all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are starting to learn that we strike, so don't fuck around with our content.
If somebody,
Unless it's
someone gives you credit, like let's say they're like reacting to an interview.
I don't like that shit.
Got
Like,
it.
you know what I'm saying? Like bring it to my attention, and then maybe we could work something out.
Right.
But working something out almost never means that they're going to be compensating me for the content. It just
Because there's so
means-
many channels now that their whole entire thing is reacting.
Yeah.
So it's like whether it's a song or an interview or
But a lot of times it's not even reacting. It's usually just, hey, let me just take this piece
no, for sure.
and put it out. Like, a reaction is a reaction. I'm not so much
Mad at that, yeah.
concerned with the reactions.
Right.
But a lot of times, like even like with shorts, it's like
Shorts is
constantly-
where they fuck you.
Yeah, it's like they rip your stuff. They throw a little bit of music behind it. They slow it down to try to
Right.
get around the limitation, the content ID and stuff like that. And ultimately, and the problem is like you'll have these channels that are like they have 2,000 followers, but they'll get 1 million views on a short.
Yeah. That's
your content, and the logo's not there. There's really no real benefit. So it's it is what it is. It's a balancing act.
I can imagine like at the end of the day, like you said, like it's like there's a difference between giving credit. It's almost like, if somebody's sourcing something in an article or something and just chopping something up, cutting out. I hate when people cover your logo. And I'm just like, bro.
I've had people like literally upload entire hour and a half videos on their Twitter account. It's just like, like the entire video is from beginning to end, like right there. Yeah. So listen, I understand. Like it sounds kind of old school, but at the end of the day, you create this content and you control it. Like literally, we have a person on staff that one of their main jobs is to copyright every single interview. Literally, so we have a copyright on everything because way too often in the past it'd be like Netflix, like when the Mike Tyson Jake Paul interview was, when Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight was about to happen, there was a whole documentary, and they used like part of my Ari Spears interview. I didn't get paid. I didn't get.
Netflix didn't reach out?
Yeah, I didn't even get asked.
Wow.
There was an HBO documentary where like part of my D.L. Hughley interview got paid. Used in it. Lil Baby would perform at Rolling Loud and use part of his interview.
It's like, hey,
it's like
I've had that happen a few times, but they always reach out and they try to get me to sign off. Like they try to use a whack. I had Whack where he talked about he had like an unreleased sex tape.
Shout out to Whack.
Shout out to Whack, man. You guys have some classics.
Yeah.
In the last.
Yeah. No, I mean, and this is why I finally got sick of it. I said everything's gonna get copyrighted, and when people start to do this shit from now on, they're gonna get a letter from my lawyer. And
I think people got to understand too, man, is like at the end of the day, the hard work, the hours, the years that get put into, building your brand, that, that shit is not like to be taken lighthearted. In the same way that like if an artist got sampled without someone clearing it, they're going to fucking sue.
Sure. You know what I mean?
Or they're going to send a cease and desist to take it down.
Exactly.
100%. Like it's the same shit. So you got to respect, each side of the grind.
Yeah.
I want to get back. So I was a huge, when I came up, I got the name Bootleg Kev because I used to sell mixtapes, CDs, all that good shit. But you were kind of like, obviously got hip to you. I remember the mixtape you did with The Game.
Yeah. That mixtape had a DVD bundle, and that was my first video project ever.
That shit was a classic.
In life. Yeah, it's called The Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, it was. You had The Devil's Advocate, and then the Rap Phenomenon shit.
Yeah.
Was just like, I mean, was the Ghetto remix with Biggie and Tupac, the Akon Ghetto remix, was that on Rap Phenomenon? I think it was.
No.
It wasn't, no? But those were like, that was like an era of like, I think kids don't ever understand, like, there was like the mixtape era followed by the blog era.
Yeah.
And then we got into the streaming era.
There was a mixtape era, I think, followed by the DVD era.
Yeah, but I look at the mixtape DVD era kind of around like
a little bit of the same time.
Yeah.
But you got to give a shout out to people like Smack that really kind of
sure.
revolutionized the DVD era. And I was part of that era as well. I had the Hot in Here DVDs during that time, which was kind of the prequel to what Vlad TV became on YouTube.
What was, because obviously there was, this was kind of towards the, I wouldn't say the tail end, but like the big story that came out of the mixtape era was when Drama and those guys got hit. I think Big Mike got hit.
Yeah.
A few people got hit in the mixtape kind of era. Was that, I always wondered for like a guy like you, who had some of the biggest mixtapes at the time, what were the economics behind that grind?
Well, that it's interesting you bring that up, because up until that time, I was still pushing mixtapes, and I was actually a co-owner in one of the big mixtape websites. I don't want to say what it is because...
Was it Mix Unit?
No, it wasn't Mix Unit.
Okay.
But it was a competitor to Mix Unit, right? And I had a partner. We had a big warehouse in Brooklyn, which got broken into as soon as we opened it. We got all our stuff back eventually. But like, I was doing mixtapes and DVDs, but I was always sort of edgy about the whole thing because I understood that we're not clearing any of the copyrights. We're bootlegging essentially.
Yeah, almost like this is good, too good to be true. So we got to kind of treat it that way.
So and like me and my partner at the time always kind of had friction because he wanted to keep growing it. And I'm like, why are we growing something that's essentially illegal? We're just putting ourselves on a radar to be busted that much harder. Like I remember I had a condo that I had to put in my parents' name because I was worried that it might get seized and whatever else. And I remember seeing the video of DJ Drama getting busted, and they were like towing his BMW and seizing everything. And I said, that's it, I'm done. Like that right there was the sign I was looking for. So I basically just gave, me and my partner worked it out where I gave him the company, and I was done with it. Yeah, I just said if the repercussions is getting busted by the feds and having everything seized, it's just, I've had a great run with this. I made a name for myself. I had some fans, like, people knew who I was. People respected the artistry of the rap phenomenons and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm done. Let me just focus on video and what comes with it. And then shortly afterwards, that's when YouTube became a thing. Yeah.
It was like, it's interesting too, because I remember you would go by the Butcher.
Yeah, Vlad the Butcher.
And
shout out to Benny.
Yeah. But you were the first Butcher for real.
I was the first Butcher. Yeah, it's funny because I remember when I first heard 97 Hove by Benny the Butcher, that Alchemist produced. This was before Benny really got on.
Yeah, 97 Hove was like that, I think it was Tana Talk 3.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And that was, I think, the turning point in his career.
It was, for sure.
But when I heard that song, I'm like, yo, this is so dope. And I remember I hit up Alchemist. I'm like, yo, like, this is dope. He's like, yeah, one butcher to another butcher. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. He was the first person to actually point that out. Not that Benny got the name from me, because
no, for sure.
But it was just coincidence that two dudes in hip hop have the Butcher name.
Well, it was like you guys were able to like make original songs out of like remixes.
Yeah, the Tupac rap phenomenon. That was me, Dirty Harry, and Green Lantern. So at the time, Green Lantern was Eminem's DJ.
Yep.
Dirty Harry was Nas's DJ and Alicia Keys' DJ. And we just came together, and we all just got acapellas, and we all had relationships with different artists. So one of it was, just doing blends and remixes, but the bigger part was, hey, let's get real artists to jump on these songs. So like having Alicia Keys sing a Tupac song as an interlude, having, I'd call Bun B. He shot me a verse from one of the songs. Exhibit was on there. Bounty Killer was on there. Wyclef had a song with Tupac, which pissed off a lot of Tupac fans because he was kind of Tupac was beefing with the Fugees at one point, and but it was just like it was a project that never would have happened through the labels, right? Because it was just too many clearances and too much everything, and
I've been happy to see like some of those mixtape albums finally hitting DSPs, like J. Cole shit has been
really?
Big
yeah, but that was all original stuff.
No, but I'm saying like that was more blog era mixtapes, right? So that was like a little bit later. But those like that was the thing. It was like I remember my hustle was burning the CDs in my parents' house, and then I had like 7 or 8 vendors that I would just drop product off to like once a week. So it'd be like the Southern Smokes, the Rap Phenomenon. Shout out to DJ Smalls, who had like the hot down south shit drama, and I was always just like, damn, I guess that would be the hustle, is like bootleg and everything, and then having a website. Because Mixed Unit, I mean, Clinton Sparks was Mixed Unit. That shit was booming. I bought so much like I had so many rap shirts that I bought off of that site. Like, but there was quite an era, man. You were an important part of that era before Vlad TV was even the thing. So it's like, man, for people who are like surface level, like just they know what Vlad TV is. Like, you have like a real history in the game before that.
I mean, I was trying to figure it out, man. I was broke. Like, that was that was 10 years of being broke.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, from 2002 to like maybe 2011 is when the money started kind of coming in. So you're talking about like 9 years of just like scraping by, thinking that there was something on the horizon, not sure what it is. But, just happy, man, just happy to be in it. Just happy to be a hip hop kid that, like driving. I remember when we dropped Rap Phenomenon 2, like cars were driving by, bumping it, and it was like, wow, like, then that Tupac mixtape won Mixtape of the Year, the Just Those Mixtape Awards, which was a big deal at the time. Double XL gave it Mixtape of the Year, and it was like MTV featured it, and it was like for the first time, I'm like, kind of felt like transitioning from being a fan to actually being
like a professional, like I can make money off this. I can have a career, maybe. Yeah.
Well, not even making money, but just making an impact. On the genre.
Right.
And that meant a lot to me because I never thought that I would actually accomplish that. I was always just a fan. I always thought I'd just be a fan.
Right.
And to go from a fan to actually be something that other DJs and other artists really were fucking with was like, wow. Like I'm still surprised that ever happened.
Right. Yo, from what? So, obviously there's the. By the way, shout out to everybody because there's going to be some comments in this interview where it's like the culture vultures unite. I feel like anybody who's white in hip hop, they call us culture vultures. But I want to know at what point in time, because there's this narrative out there that you're very aware of. You've talked about it a lot that you're the feds or people come on your show to get interrogated, etc. Do you remember what point in time that narrative, because I feel like it went from you kind of being like an underground beloved like YouTube channel where people were getting like fucking sick interviews, so all of a sudden it felt like there was like a stigma to a Vlad interview. Do you remember like that? Like, were you paying attention enough to feel that happening?
I mean, from the very first moment that I decided to do Vlad TV, it was calculated that I'm not going to be doing the type of interviews that were the norm in hip hop, which were radio interviews.
Correct.
And they're very surface level.
Very cheeky, very, hey, I don't want to piss the label off.
It was, there wasn't a lot of long form stuff because radio format is like, you just need a few sound bites.
100%.
And I just felt like nobody was asking the serious questions. Like, everyone was just dancing around trying to be friends with the rappers and hoping to get invited to the parties and being cool with the labels and all that shit. And I'm like, I looked up to 60 Minutes. Like, to me, 60 Minutes was, kind of like the goal that I had set for myself. Like, 60 Minutes, they do interviews that change global politics, that make a difference, that affect stock prices, affect presidents getting elected, like that type of thing. Not to say that I've accomplished that, but I'm saying that that's what I aspired to. And I felt like I was just bored watching all these interviews. Like they weren't asking the questions that me and my friends were asking. These were not the barbershops. When you go to a barbershop, this is not what people are talking about. They're not talking about like, let's talk about this feature on this album.
Who's on your album? Yeah.
Like, so I came in going like, yo, I'm going to ask the uncomfortable questions. I'm going to ask the real questions. I'm going to figure out a way to do it where the person doesn't storm out.
Yeah, where you want to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, there's an art to it all. So and with that came the whole, he's the feds or whatever. But honestly, I never really cared about that because I always knew that I was not the feds. I always knew I was not working with law enforcement. Like I always knew that I did my best to try to protect people. I never talked about open cases.
Active cases.
I there were situations with like Draco the Ruler, his manager wanted me to do an interview while he was still facing his murder case in jail, and I turned it down because I'm like, I don't want this to be part of the case.
Because it would have been.
It would have been part of the case, like Lil Woody. I didn't interview him until Young Thug accepted his plea deal, because I knew that this interview was going to be part of this trial if I did it earlier. So I've always been extremely careful, and if you look at 17 years and thousands and thousands and thousands of interviews, the only time that I know that an interview got used in a case, which it hasn't been yet, but it probably will be, is the Keefe D case.
Right.
And in that case, he wrote a book that was on Amazon that talked about everything that's in the interview. So
right.
And he said that he had immunity and so forth. So it was like, all right, well, you wrote a book, you want to do it, everyone's aware of what's happening. All right, cool, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you write a book, it's fair game to
talk about the book.
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise you're not talking to Keefe D if you don't have that book out.
Right.
I mean, I think, too, the other thing is, interesting is, artists will put shit on social media. They'll go on Instagram Live and say shit. They'll tweet shit. They'll put shit in their records. And then they'll voluntarily go sit down for an interview and get mad if certain shit is brought up that they've already put into it's like pick your poison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I mean, one of the funniest things I ever heard, me and academics were talking about this, when Ak and Meek Mill were beefing. One of the times that they
I was about to say one of the 30 times.
One of the 30 times they're beefing. And Meek Mill was like, yo, why would you repost pictures of me and my homies waving around guns when you know that we have warrants out? And it's like,
you posted them?
You're mad at academics over reposting the shit that you posted yourself.
You posted it yourself. Yeah.
I just can't understand this logic. I can't get my head around this. It makes no sense to me whatsoever to say that.
Yeah.
But yet he said it publicly.
Yeah. It's but you did this. People can find this.
You're mad that academics reposted some shit that you should have never posted.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
How often do you do an interview, and whether it's because you might have a personal relationship or because you don't want to stir up some shit, or where you'll remove something proactively on your own so it doesn't come out? Does that happen often, or does it
sometimes, but
maybe somebody crosses a line, you're like, you know what, I don't want to.
Well, but it's up to me to steer this interview. Right. People think people like you and me don't do much. We just sit down, we talk to people. How hard is it? Anyone can do it. No, it's not that easy. It takes a lot of preparation, and it takes a lot of skill, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of relationships and time and everything else like that. So I already have a game plan coming into this interview. Like we do a lot of research that leads up to everything. So generally, you don't really get that many surprises. And if you do, I'll be like, hey, I'm going to cut this out. This is going to bite you in the ass later on.
Yeah.
So every so often it happens. Not that often, but that's because I steer it a certain type of way.
Is your research process has to be insane, though, because your interviews are so in depth.
Yeah.
But you do so many of them. I know you have a team, right? But at the same time, you have to also kind of be invested into who you're talking to. So you also have to make sure you're applying yourself to whatever research your team brings to you. How many hours a week are you diving in and preparing for these conversations?
It's all over the place. I mean, my assistant, Evan, he does the first, draft of the research. Mm-hmm. And he's been working with me for so long, he has a pretty good idea about where I'm going. But when it comes to certain, I'm older than him, and I've been in hip hop longer. So, I was a hip hop nerd.
Yeah, you have different cultural context to certain interviews.
Yeah, sure. but beyond that, it's since I was a teenager, I've been buying every XXL and double.
For sure, me too. I still got them in storage right now.
Yeah, I don't have that. Yeah,
I got all of them in storage.
Yeah, you're a better man than I am. But I would read everything from cover to cover, and a lot of this stuff never made it onto the internet. Right? This is just a magazine from 20 years ago.
Yeah, a callback from an article.
Yeah. And I'll do that. I'll be like, hey, in this one article you mentioned whatever, and this is just from my memory banks.
Right.
You know, and or watching MTV Raps,
Right.
stuff that
isn't on YouTube.
It just isn't on YouTube anymore. You had to have experienced it at the time. So, and also a lot, can be said about kind of experiencing music as it comes out for the first time. Like, it's one thing for a 20-year-old to listen to Michael Jackson's Thriller and say, wow, this is really good. It's something different to be my age and actually remember when Thriller came out and how big of an impact. And it was like, my God. And I was in elementary school at the time. I was still a kid, but you knew it was the biggest thing ever, even as a kid. And you can't really go back and experience that after the fact.
Yeah, it's like these, there's like kids who'll dive into like old Outkast or old Kanye, and it's like, but I went to the store and bought the CD on a Tuesday,
right?
You know what I mean? And like, I remember, like, there's certain. I think that's what I appreciate about a lot of your conversations is like you still do have that kind of approach, especially when it comes to some of the like older artists,
right? Who
I grew up listening to, you know what I mean? So you're gonna get that conversation. When did you? Because you pivoting and doing some of my favorite interviews you do, and I would say. The Hitman dude, is it Michael Francis? I damn near think you inspired him to do his own channel.
Well, yeah, maybe. Francis was not a hitman.
Or what was he?
He was a captain.
He was,
Sammy the Bull was a hitman.
Sammy the Bull was a hitman.
Yeah.
But you doing those Mafia interviews, because your Sammy the Bull shit's amazing.
Thank you.
Was there ever any, like, blowback for any of the stuff that those guys talked about that you personally experienced? I know a lot of those people are probably dead or in prison at this point.
I mean, I did this one interview where this Mafia guy, was bashing, I think, John Gotti Jr. and like his wife or something.
Yeah.
And then his wife reached out to me and was like, hey, some of the stuff he's saying is not actually true. Like, I don't weigh 300 pounds and, stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, I'll respect that. And then I cut certain things out just because I felt like, okay, well, if it's not true, I don't want to put it out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that, but in general, no, I mean, me and Sammy the Bull kind of got into a bit of an argument before our first interview.
Yeah.
But it was like, I mean, it's not like I'm worried about the situation. It's not like I'm worried about my safety. It's like, I'm sitting there with security and,
Like, I'm assuming, like, would you, because you've done, like, the Hell's Angel stuff you do is dope. Yeah. Would you ever do, I know you've talked to people who, like, have, like, done cartel, like, task force shit or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the one line, like, I'd be super scared to fuck with is, like, talking to any former cartel members, active cartel members. Like, I feel like, is that something that
I would do it.
You would do it.
We had a guy like in Colombia that was supposed to set up a bunch of these interviews up, and ultimately I think they all fell through.
I'm even worried about the Colombians because that's over the ocean. I'm from the Mexican cartels. Don't fuck around, boy.
Well, Colombian cartels are no joke either.
No, for sure. But there's an ocean you got to get over. Yeah. Like,
I mean, flights are cheap these days. But like I'm really. But like, I am not the enemy here. Like, I'm actually promoting and I'm actually giving people a chance to tell their story. And I think that everyone wants to tell their story.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like the street guys, they really want to tell their story, especially if they did a lot of jail time behind it. And they have the right to tell their story because they've already been convicted of it or they've already pled guilty and so forth. So, like, I'm viewed as someone that helps.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like Terrence Gangster Williams, I did his first interview out of prison. He did like 27 years. Mm-hmm. And then,
and now
that in turn
extremely successful.
Yeah, he turned around and started his own channel. Yep. And now, like I said, we did a whole episode with him for the Vlad TV YouTube Masterclass. And he sent me some paperwork recently where he's made over $300,000. And this is just sitting in his apartment, in the second bedroom of his apartment.
Right.
Looking, in front of his laptop, doing some simple editing.
Well, there's been so many examples of that, like people who have found success coming on your platform.
Yeah,
as a
Bob
personality.
James. Michael Franzese is another one. I think he started his channel after we started doing interviews. Man, like
I feel like Lord Jamar wasn't doing a show. Was he doing a show?
Yeah, no, I think he started his own channel.
No, he did, but I'm saying I don't think he was doing that prior to like coming on your shit.
No, not that I'm aware of. A lot of people, man, and I'm happy for everyone that does well with it. I mean, this is not You know, this is not an exclusive game. Anyone can technically do it. It just requires the work.
Yeah.
You can't just do it
Consistency
occasionally.
work.
Consistency.
It's the consistency.
You have to put in, it's sort of like when you look at, for example, like a Jamar, he still films at his home and does interviews, like Zoom type interviews.
Which don't resonate. They just don't resonate.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
When you don't reinvest into the production of it and don't raise your production,
you have a ceiling.
It's gonna limit you.
Right.
So that's why you see him not sort of growing in the same fashion that like his interviews grew on Vlad TV, because we put a lot of production behind it. A lot of production. Like we have like, I don't know, like a $50,000 setup of Vlad TV in our New York studio. I mean, moving cameras and and the editing and the sound. Like, I have a guy that really his main job is to clean up sound.
Right.
And you look at some of the older Vlad TV interviews, some of the sounds is just awful. And now it's really clean.
Hey, what up? We got to stop the interview to tell you about the good folks at MyBookie. That's right, baby. MyBookie.ag. You already know. If you don't have an account, man, you can bet on anything, anywhere, at any time. And if you go there, sign up with the promotional code Bootleg right now, and they're going to get you hooked up with that 50% first deposit bonus. That's right. Whatever you put in, they're going to match that thing, all right? So that's what we're doing, man. NBA season is in full effect. You got spring training baseball. And the best part about, like, right now with the NBA, you got a lot of teams like my shitty-ass Suns trying to compete for that play-in. There's just a lot of things you can, man, look, are we going to MVP? Are we going to Giannis, Jokic, Shea Gillis, Alexander? I just fucked his name up. I called him Shane Gillis. It's Shea Gillis. I don't know this fucking guy's name now. Is it Shane Gillis? No, it's Shea. It's Shea. Anyway, with that being said, yo, you can gamble on anything. Plus, I got the full service casino, man. I've been on webcam with the blackjack dealers, getting it popping late at night. Look, use that promotional code Bootleg right now when you sign up at mybookie.ag. Of course, celebrating 10 years. I've been with them damn near 10 years, man, rocking with MyBookie. So make sure you sign up right now. Also, give me some Odd Socks, goddamn it. I want to shout out to our good folks over at Goddamn Odd Socks, our family. Ooh, Lay's potato chip socks. What else do we got here? The Bob Rosses. Shout out to that. Looks like Ritz. We also have some of this. Anyway, if y'all don't know, man, Odd Socks are OG sponsor. They're our day ones. They're our family. They just had a birthday in December, celebrating 11 years. The craziest shit about Odd Socks is I've been fucking with them since they was like getting it out the mud in Tampa, Florida in like 2014. Fast forward, they're one of the biggest sock companies in the world. And we're hooking up all of our viewers with a dope deal with Odd Socks, the most comfortable socks in the world, the craziest licenses. Go to oddsocksofficial.com, use the promo code right now. It's Bootleg, and you'll save 20% off. Of course, the underwear is on deck. Shout out to the undies. We got all the undies. They got the slides now. They got belts. They got all kinds of crazy shit at Odd Socks, man. Oddsocksofficial.com, promo code Bootleg. Save 20% off at checkout. And by the way, if you screenshot me an Odd Socks order that you used with our promo code, throw me a pair of Bootleg Kev socks. Give me a pair. Give me a fucking pair over there. If you can screenshot an Odd Socks order and send it to me, the first 5 people that do that, I'm going to send you on the house a free pair of Bootleg Kev socks. Yeah, why not? Support my people. I support my people. You feel me? Let's get back to the interview. Have you thought about doing what Mr. Beast is doing and having a Vlad TV, like Brazil, Vlad TV, and where all your old interviews get re-dubbed over in different languages?
Yeah, I mean, we've had companies reach out to us for that, but I think what's really going to happen I think it's already happening on a limited scale, is that YouTube is going to be able to just incorporate AI
versions of
it, where you'll be able to just click on the bottom right hand corner, and it's like, if you want to hear this person speaking in Spanish with the exact same voice,
right? That'd be crazy if they did. That's got to be coming.
They already have it, but
I
think it's just not being rolled out on a large scale basis. So I think that that's going to be done it's already, the technology is already there. So it's just a matter of, this year, maybe next year, I think that all that's just going to be automatic. So I think all that's going to be unnecessary. Now, Mr. Beast is worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
So he's got the bankroll to pay.
He actually has, because there is AI software to do that. Because I remember if you watch the Cheech Marin interview that I did, we have a Spanish audio version of that interview.
Got it.
But it's not his voice.
It's different.
It's not quite as good. And with AI, they could even make the mouth match the words.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're Mr. Beast, it makes sense because he's making so much money off every video, and he's got huge sponsors. He's got the Amazon show and everything else like that. So throwing an extra $10,000 for some translation is simple for him. But for us, having a whole bunch of people translate it for limited returns has never
the ROI is going to make sense.
There's not a good ROI. So therefore, I'm just kind of waiting for YouTube to do its job.
You first of all, shout out to the Boondocks, one of the greatest cartoons of all time, one of my favorite shows ever.
Yeah, I agree.
Walk me through, because shout out to Aaron McGruger, he's a genius. Walk me through like the Boondocks situation, because to me that if you just like as a callback to like a point in time in like America and hip hop culture, if you just watch the Boondocks, you're like, there's so much cultural significance with everything they did, especially the first 2 seasons. But you being a part of that, how did that end up coming to fruition? And
I was, a lot of this stuff comes from me sincerely being a fan, right? Because I feel like everything that I made that I felt was really dope was because it came from a sincere place.
Yeah.
So, Carl Jones was the co-writer and essentially the main artist.
Yep.
On the Boondocks cartoon. He was partnered with Aaron McGruder. Aaron would be kind of the main writer, but Carl would actually do most of the drawing and do a lot of the voices and also co-write the stuff. So me and Carl had a relationship. I've never met Aaron McGruder in my life. Like literally never met him. But me and Carl started developing a relationship. He had these YouTube skits called Tube Steak, where he would just do these little kind of comedy skits. So me and him kind of hooked up, and we did an episode, like a Tube Steak episode together. And he was just a really cool, super talented guy. He went on to like date Erykah Badu later on.
Good for him.
Stuff like that. And so me and him started developing a kind of rapport. We did a couple like little skits, whatever. We did moderately well. And I remember I went down to the studio that the Boondocks was being made out of. I think it was at Sony Studios. And they were showing me how on the walls they had VladTV.com articles. And they would use these articles for ideas for the episodes, because we were one of the only hip-hop news sites during that time. I think, World Star was the other one, and there was like Now.
Yeah, when we would do show prep for the radio show, like your site would have like all kinds of cool shit and then random shit.
Right. So, they're already kind of utilizing Vlad TV in the show indirectly. Me and him had kind of formed a relationship as well. And I remember one day I was in LA and I just called him up like, yo, what's up? What you doing? We were just chopping up. I'm like, hey man, get me on the show. And he was like, yo, we're working on an episode right now that this might work for. So it was an episode of Thugnificent going to the radio to beef with like the Soulja Boy kind of character. It was sort of a takeoff of the Ice-T Soulja Boy beef that was happening during that time. And at the time they'd already recorded it, and it might have been D-Ray Davis who had done the original voiceover.
Okay.
Sorry, D-Ray. I'm sorry. I took your job. But it was basically, it was just sort of like this kind of quirky DJ character that was sort of all over the place or whatever. And Carl had talked to Aaron, was like, yo, like, why don't we instead
swap that out? Yeah.
Swap it out to something authentically hip hop. Right. Which is
and a real platform.
Yeah. They asked to use my logo and everything else like that. So they were open to the idea. So I went down to Sony Studios, they gave me the script. And I kind of read it a few times. First, I was trying to kind of go off script, and they're like, just stick to the script, Stick to the script. You know what we're doing here, right? So I stuck to the script. They took a bunch of photos of me of what I was wearing that day, and that became the cartoon. Wow. And it was like, when I saw it, I was just like, gah. And I know like DJ had had been pushing this clip recently where it was like, did DJ Vlad cause the end of the Boondocks? Because what had happened was we had done that, and then the trailer came out, and Complex reached out to me and was like, yo, you're on the trailer of the new Boondocks. So I did an interview, and I just very generally talked, like I didn't give any details. I just generally talked about how I got on the show. But what was happening at the time was that Carl Jones and Aaron McGruder, there was already a tense relationship happening there. And if you watch my interview with Carl, when we talk about this, like, you know, this is already something I covered myself. Essentially, Carl was working on other projects. He was working on Black Dynamite at the time, right, with my man Michael Jai White. So there was a tension.
That was the anime, right?
The animated.
Yeah, RZA did the soundtrack, I think.
I think so,
It was great. Yeah.
Did he? Possibly.
RZA had something to do with it, I believe.
I'm not sure.
Possibly. Yeah, maybe not.
But like he was essentially, you know, I think he was working on Freaknik, I think.
Okay.
As well. So Carl was branching out and doing other shit. And I guess the way he described it to me, Aaron was bothered by it because he wanted him to just do just the Boondocks. And, you know, he explained how this was like a huge job. Like when you look at the Boondocks, a lot of this stuff it's not computer animation. It's all hand-drawn.
Hand-drawn.
Serious work. They do a lot of the work in, like, I think Korea,
right.
like South Korea did a lot of the animation, but they have to set it all up. So there was already this tension between the two of them. And then when this interview came out, Aaron called up Carl and started screaming. I was like, yo, what the fuck is this guy, this DJ guy talking about my show? And it's like,
you mean the guy who was a part of your show?
You mean the guy that's on the show?
Right.
Like, what do you know? And he was like, this is the first time Aaron screamed on him. And it just turned into this whole screaming fest that had never happened before. But he just, you know, he explained to me, he's like, it wasn't really about me. It was about this other shit. But Aaron was using me as a trigger.
Right.
And then, like, that was it. They sort of never really became cool after that for whatever reason. And I think Carl was open to it, but Aaron, for some reason, wasn't. And that essentially ended the Boondocks. So you could say, oh, Vlad ended the Boondocks. I didn't really end the Boondocks. Like, and here's the thing. Like, Carl called me, like, yo, man, Aaron's bugging. I'm like, okay, cool. I called up Complex. They took it down. You know what I'm saying? I think they left just a few little pieces that had nothing remotely specific, which wasn't barely there anyways. But it was like, yo, it was fixed right away. You know, there wasn't any sort of hostility from my end. I was like, yo, they asked me to do an interview. But that caused a fight that was really about a whole lot of other shit. Because if you really think about it, like, do you really think a Vlad TV interview would end the Boondocks? Like a successful show like that?
You would hope not. But again, egos are crazy. You know, people's egos, they are crazy.
But it was a very... I mean, I just love the show. I love that show.
Especially now.
Yeah.
It's needed.
It's needed. And I think Charlamagne was trying to bring it back, but nah. And it's too bad because Aaron, as talented as he is, he hasn't really done anything really dope since then. I mean, he did Black Jesus. You know, and
Black Jesus was dope. But
it was dope, but it wasn't Boondocks dope.
Success-wise, it didn't.
But it wasn't Boondocks dope.
Yeah, Boondocks, for the amount of seasons it had.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the cartoon Chappelle in terms of like...
Well, yeah, that was the two shows. My two favorite shows at the time was Chappelle's show and Boondocks.
And each of them made such an impact. I wasn't able to get on
Chappelle's show
with limited
I did get on the
seasons.
Boondocks. Yeah, but I did get on the Boondocks. So
right.
I'm like, okay, like I'm 50% of my wish list was achieved. But yeah, no, it was like there's already a bunch of issues there, and yeah, Aaron just never quite captured the magic of the Boondocks after that. And I don't know, has he done anything since
I'm not sure.
Black Jesus?
I'm not sure. I'm not too hip to what he's been doing outside of Black Jesus and Boondocks.
Yeah.
Has there ever been something, because I'm kind of remembering there was the interview you did where the kid had talked about how he killed somebody who tried to rob him, and then he ended up getting killed after the interview dropped.
BTB Savage.
BTB Savage. That was what, 2023 that happened? Was that 2 years ago?
That was a rough.
But like when something like that happens, obviously you can't foresee or have the foresight to understand like how people react to any sort of circumstances that, you know, come out of an interview. But like when something like that happens, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, here's the thing about that interview. I, you know, and just to preface it to show why I did it, you know, I talked about this before. You know, I had dealt with a home invasion myself. So I was at a girl's house and her ex-boyfriend jumped through the window and attacked me and threatened to kill me and
yeah,
you know,
I've heard you talk about
and so
it,
forth. So it was a very like, you know, in the process, I thought I'd killed him in self-defense. So a lot of what BTB Savage had gone through,
you could relate to.
I could relate to, right? So when I heard about that story that this guy had killed somebody in self-defense over somebody trying to rob him, it resonated with me. So I did the interview with him and we talked about it. And you know, we didn't really you know, I wasn't trying to really glamorize it, but I wanted to show that like, yo, like you have the right to defend yourself if somebody goes into your home armed and tries to kill you. Like I support what him and his girlfriend did that day. But unfortunately, after that interview came out, he then posted a photo of himself at the crime scene
with all the blood.
With blood all over the floor.
Crazy thing to post.
Yeah, and he's like got all his jewelry on, and the caption was like too much motion.
Yeah.
And right after that, he got killed. So you could say, was the interview part of it? I'm sure it was part of it, but that photo I think is what put it over the top. You know,
was there ever a situation where, because like I know like,
and by the way, I felt horrible because this was a young man with a future. He had a baby. It was just like,
I mean, he's a kid. Yeah,
he was a kid, and I was just like, damn, like it was just sad. It was just a very sad day. It was not something I ever wanted. It was not something that I ever thought would happen. I didn't, you know, but I think that photo is really what did it, though.
Right. Yeah, I remember seeing that photo and be like, yo, this is an insane thing to post.
It was an insane photo. Yeah. It was an absolutely, and you know, I mean, to be sitting there, and it was one thing to say, look, this happened, I protected myself, and unfortunately, this person passed away in the process of me defending myself. But it's another thing to be sitting there in a pool of actual blood.
Of somebody who's got, I promise you, their own family, their own
families, their own people.
It's a taunting thing.
Yeah, man. And I think ultimately that's what did it. You know, I remember his mother had like done an interview and said that I cut out a bunch of parts where he said he didn't want to talk about it, and nothing got cut out. Like literally not. You know, apart from him, like, hey, I'm going to take a bathroom break.
Right.
You know, literally, like you could see the raw footage from me, and nothing got cut out. We put out exactly what he said. I would never cut out a part and make a person look a certain type of way if that's not really how they're presenting themselves.
For you, is it because you've interviewed, and so have I, so many artists who end up passing away? 20
people. 20 people that interview got killed.
Yeah.
And then there's about 5 who overdosed. There's a handful, you know, I mean, there's some that killed themselves.
I'm surprised it's only 20 for you.
Yeah, man. But a lot of them are in their 20s and 30s. It's horrible. It's tragic. I mean, these are all young men with potential and a future, and you know, people that love them and fans and everything else like that. So to, you know, like,
was there anyone in particular that kind of like hurt for you, like where you were like, yo, we actually had a rapport, we actually kind of connected, it was something, you know?
I mean, me and Rich Homie Quan were in contact.
Good guy, man.
Yeah, he died of a drug overdose.
Yeah.
That hurt. You know, I think I did Aaron Carter's last interview before he died of an overdose. And
the overdoses are tricky, man, because like I had a great relationship with Mac, and you know, Mac Miller passing away was...
Yeah, Mac Miller's another one who I interviewed who died of a drug overdose.
Yeah.
Just trying to think the ones that really kind of hit close to home. I mean, they all kind of hit close to home because
you sat down, like I remember when Fulio died, I was like, damn, like I sat with this guy for hours and hours at a time, two different times, and off camera would try to be like, hey man, like you gotta chill out, bro. Like,
yeah, FBG Duck, that one hit close to home because I was actually trying to get him to leave town, like to just move out of Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same thing with Mo3. I was telling him in the interview that he should move out of Dallas, and he was telling me, ain't nothing gonna happen to me. Ain't no one chasing me down. And it's like
such a talented guy. Mo3 was so talented, man.
Yes, people appreciate him now way more than they
for
did
sure.
when he was alive.
1 trillion
yeah,
percent.
It's crazy. And no, man, a lot of them, man, like really all of them to a certain degree, but yeah, some of which like Quan I had close relationships with and so forth. Yeah, those hurt.
I always talk about this, and I think, you know, whoever has a hip hop platform and interviews these artists are a part of this world of, you know, I guess sensationalizing certain shit when it comes to the streets and hip hop artists. But I do feel like there is a culture of a consumer that aren't necessarily fans of certain artists' music, right? They're not really engaged with them and their quote unquote talents, but they're more engaged in the storyline of what's happening with them. And I think of like some of these hood vlogs that come out, or these like documentaries that come out, you know, whether it's Trap Lord Ross or it's Swamp Stories or it's however many 30 generic versions of those channels there are that are out there. And it kind of results in like fans, you know, you'll see somebody dying, and if you see a rapper die who's a part of a beef, if you want to just be like, society ain't shit, just go to the comments of like, you know, an academic's post about it or something. And it's pretty crazy. What are your thoughts just on like the current culture of like consumers kind of just viewing artists as like main characters in a Netflix show, even though this is like some real life shit? Because this is very much a thing.
I think the artists put themselves in those acting roles. Right? Because look at Fulio and Young and Ace. Look at all the songs they've dropped. They probably
the music videos.
Yeah, I mean, they've dropped hundreds of songs, but which are the ones that get 50 million views?
For sure.
Who I Smoke,
right?
You know, or the Fulio interview where he's at the
gravesite,
at the gravesite
doing the Fantasia remake. Yeah.
You know, when I see you,
holding
up pictures of Young and Ace's like little brother who died, and other people who died as teenagers. Like holding that up the whole time, like that's the shit that reacts. Look at even Lil Durk. Like Lil Durk, as big as he was still sort of dissing his ops close to the time that he got arrested.
Yeah, you pointed out some shit on Twitter, and you're really good for like a good tweet when some shit like that happens, where you'll be like, duh, like what the fuck did you think was gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. When Lil Pab got killed with Quando Rondo, and there was a news clip that came out of like Quando screaming over his dead cousin.
And Dirk sampled that.
Now they're trying to say he didn't sample it, but he sampled that. Like, come on, like seriously, like we're not stupid here. And if you listen to the lyrics, yeah, it doesn't exactly say that, but it sort of dances around that whole situation, and it's just like, Dirk doesn't need to do that, but I almost feel like he felt like he needed to do that in order to keep his status as a top rapper. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, 99% of the time, these guys are playing into that because they feel this is how they're going to get on and stay on.
Yeah, but you see a guy like Dirk who's got songs with Morgan Wallen, and you're like, buddy, like you're supposed to be better than this at this point, right?
Right, but does he have someone that he respects that says, yo, cut this shit out?
Right.
You know, like, seriously, like, you're fucking up right now.
Do you, because you'll see Gilly and Wallow, their approach to a lot of these younger artists who have a lot of tension in the streets is to kind of take the approach to be the big homie on camera and off camera, I'm sure, as well. Do you ever, because you are strictly like in my opinion, like you're documenting what's out there unapologetically, and I think you do it with taste. I think some people would disagree with me saying that, but do you ever feel like it's your job to pull somebody to the side and be like, hey, what the like?
I do it on camera.
I know. I know
all
you've
the time.
given advice a lot on camera, but that type of shit.
I try to squash beefs on camera. It'd be like, Mano and Whack 100 are going at him. Like, yo, I'll get y'all on the phone.
Or like, what's the
But
that's
a
not
lot of times they don't want to do it.
Well, also that doesn't go viral, right? Because that doesn't fit into like the DJ Vlad narrative people pay. Like why not make that go viral?
Look at my Fulio Young and Ace interviews. Like literally in the interviews, I'm saying, can y'all work it out?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be the middleman.
I'll
put myself in the middle.
I did the same thing with both.
I'm not talking about on camera. I'm talking about off camera.
Right.
I'll work it out with you. Like I know both of y'all. Both of y'all fuck with me. Let me get y'all on the phone together. And I'm risking my safety by doing this.
Yep.
But I feel like it's important to do shit like this. Like when I bring up beefs, if you notice, most times it's like, well, how can we fix this?
Yeah, what's the resolution?
What's the resolution to this? Even Fulio was like, yo, yeah, me and Young and Ace will work things out sooner or later.
Yeah.
He
said shit like that during our talks too, where he was like, I actually like the song. He was like,
he was just like, yo, and that's on tape.
Yeah.
And I don't really talk to them off camera that much because we don't really have a relationship like that.
Right.
These are not like my actual friends. Like people like a Michael Jai White, who's actually like me and him, talk a lot off camera. But on camera, I want to document it because I know the other person's going to see it, and maybe that'll trigger of like, okay, like.
Has there been something where maybe one of your interviews has sparked conversation between two people that may have had a problem that you know about?
I mean, I wish I could say yes.
Right.
I really wish that I could say, oh yeah, so-and-so worked it out after my interview. But most times, man, people just don't want to hear that shit. They don't want to, I remember me and, was a Polo G got all angry at me when I did this. I was interviewed by Academics on his show. And I was like, and I gave Polo one of his first interviews ever. And I was like, yeah, I feel like he's acting like these laws don't apply to him.
Right.
And the people around him, because like his brother's got a murder charge, his mom is shooting at her daughter.
Yeah.
He's getting multiple guns, he's getting caught with guns constantly, and it's just like, yo, like, and it's like you have such an opportunity right now, and all this shit is happening around you. And he called me up, he's all angry at me, and he's screaming at me over the phone. I had to hang up on him, and I was like, yo, like, let me give you some OG advice right now. As someone who's a lot older, who's more than twice your age and has seen over 20 people
demise,
just like you, think that they're untouchable and ultimately have the worst possible thing happen. And his response was like, I would never take advice from you. You have no idea where I came from.
All right. Huh.
And I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah. And then he got caught with a gun shortly afterwards. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, all right, cool. I did what I could do.
You've had a lot of beefs that you've patched up recently. I'm glad you and Whack did that because you guys have had some great interviews since then.
Yeah.
Also resulted in one of the best game interviews ever that came shortly after that. You've had a lot of public spats with people. Is there anybody who's on your I will never squash this list? Like, I'm good, you're over there, I'm over here, and it's going to be like that forever.
I would never say there's no one like that, because at the end of the day, like, most of the people that I've had any sort of like publicized beef with, not all, but most have done well for themselves.
Right.
Have gone on to make millions of dollars and, have done well in their own field. And I went on to do well for myself.
Right.
So at the end of the day, what are we all mad about right now? Like, why are we holding this grudge right now? Like for example, this is where like me and like a 50 Cent differ. He will hold that.
Hold it forever.
He will hold it forever.
Forever and ever.
And and he'll stand on that. That's his persona. I honestly feel like I don't really hate anyone like that. Right now, at 51 years old, I've exceeded all my expectations. I could retire today if I want to and maintain my lifestyle for the rest of my life and support my family at the same time.
And you have that, that catalog.
And I got the catalog on top of it. So it's like, and I'm sure this will all be in the comments. Oh, what about so and so? Like literally everyone you mention, I don't have any sort of real beef. And at the end of the day, if there could really be a serious conversation, like for example, I ran into Joe Budden not too long ago,
I remember.
and me and him had like a 15-year beef.
Yeah,
but we were at Bergdorf Goodman. I saw him, he saw me. We were both, by ourselves. Neither one of us had security or had our guys with us. What I'm saying? Like, and I saw him, I looked at him, I didn't feel this sort of aggressive energy. I walked up to him, put out my hand, we shook hands.
Love it.
And I remember I tweeted about it because we didn't take any photos or whatever. And I remember he taught like, oh, let's see what Joe Budden says on his podcast. And the story he told was exactly
what happened.
Exactly the same story I told.
Yeah.
And me and him, and he used to say, yo, when I see Vlad, it's on site. To the point where I was preparing myself for violence. When he was at, I was working with Complex and he was on Everyday Struggle. I would have to go to Complex for business. I might
run into him in the lobby.
I might run into him, so I had people with me that was going to handle that. Right? I took it seriously.
For sure.
If he was serious or not, I don't know, but I took it seriously. Mm-hmm. And look, we run into each other, we shake hands, and
bygones have been bygones.
That's it. So there's really, everything can be fixed with a conversation, I feel. But, for certain people, like both of us have to stand up and say, well, we were wrong. I was wrong for this and they were wrong for this. And then, show some maturity and show some growth.
What interview for you was two parts? Views-wise the biggest and monetization-wise the biggest? Because those two aren't always necessarily the same. Videos can get monetized or demonetized.
Yeah. It's hard to say in terms of views-wise. I mean, the Michael Franzese full interview was pretty big.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe 5 million views for the full interview. It's one thing to have a really big full interview and have a really big clip.
Right, because those full interviews, I mean, if someone's sitting there for 3 hours or 2 hours watching,
Right. My interview with Roger Bonds, the full interview with him, the second one that I did myself, that really just broke down the whole Cassie lawsuit and his role in it, how he was mentioning it. That may have monetarily been the biggest one.
Oh, wow, okay.
Just because, like, and I talk about this in the YouTube Masterclass. There's actually an episode
about that one interview.
About that one interview.
Wow.
Right? And it actually breaks it all down about how when it originally came out, it did okay. And we got some views. It was chugging along, but then Diddy got arrested. I mean, the grand jury was still going, but when he actually got arrested, suddenly
it just spiked.
It spiked.
Went crazy.
And it has stayed like that for a long time. And it was just every day it was like, God damn, another 200,000 views off this full interview again today. It was like shit, like over and over again this was happening. So that one did, but but that's lightning in a bottle. You had no idea that was going to happen. I mean, you prepare for it.
Right, but you didn't know. Yeah, there's no way to.
You don't know. I mean, it's not like we advertised it. It just organically just started to go crazy.
You kind of have also revolutionized streams of revenue for artists, because it never used to be a thing to pay artists for interviews, which a lot of people, I've gotten people who, there's that Bandman Kevo guy, who tried to hit me upside the head. I forget. He followed me. I DM'd him like, yo, let's get an interview. And he's like, yeah, 10 grand. I was like, yeah, go fuck yourself. But I'm curious for you, what inspired you starting to do that? And who did you initially decide like, hey, maybe it was a regular guest, and then maybe like your first interview that was a one-off, like you mentioned, maybe the OJ thing almost happened. Like,
yeah, well, I think the first interview we ever paid for was, I think, Keefe D.
Okay.
Yeah. Oddly enough, yeah, it was Keefe D. We had never paid for an interview before.
And that was, what year was that? That was in the last...
Like 5 years ago?
Yeah, I was about to say the last 5 years or so.
In 2020, maybe.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And it was like his first real sit-down interview.
You mind disclosing how much it was?
Nah, I don't want to put his business out there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was the first one we paid. It wasn't that much.
Right.
Just so you know. So I think that was the first one we paid for. And then the pandemic started, right? And a lot of our regular guests, like a lot of the comedians and so forth, weren't able to start touring. They were fucked up.
Yeah, they couldn't go make their money.
They couldn't go make their money because they couldn't do shows. And it was one of those things where it was like, all right, well, these people I have good relationships with, and they would come and do interviews sometimes when I would ask them. But like,
you got a few TKs on your shit a lot.
Yeah,
Godfrey.
exactly. Yeah. And like, at that point, I'm like, okay, look, these people, this group of people really could use the money right now because a lot of their main source of income has gone away temporarily. And we're making money off these guys and girls every single time. So why don't we just share the wealth?
Cut them in.
And cut them in where they could benefit financially. We still benefit financially. And we have, now the relationship's a little bit different because now it's not just a favor to come in and do some promo. It's like, hey, listen, you're actually going to get paid to come in and do this. So now we can get them a lot more often.
And I'm sure when you're paying, it's like, cool. If I'm paying, nothing's off limits. We're talking like,
well, not necessarily. I mean,
but like the OJ thing, like I'm sure, like if OJ would have said yes to $100,000 interview, you got to be like, okay, well, we're going to talk about this.
Well,
let's be clear.
We did talk about that because me and his handler, they basically said that we could talk about everything except we can't really get too deep into the murder. Right, we can't talk about the blood evidence and all this other shit that he can't talk his way out of. But I felt there was enough there
to make it make sense,
to make it impactful enough, But going back to the original thing, it was like, all right, like we set up this situation where it was like really our regular guests were the ones that initially got paid. But they deserve to get paid.
Of course,
they've been doing all these interviews for free. Like Boosie wasn't getting paid during his early interviews. He was just coming in to do it. Then at one point it was like, all right, let's work out a payment system.
And it's like mutually beneficial because I think it's turned. I mean, obviously Boosie's always one of the craziest personalities and awesome people in music, but like I feel like his brand has gotten, as a person, has gotten so big off of those interviews.
Yeah, it's mutually beneficial, and our brand got bigger for sure. The Boosie's interviews.
Like,
and for example,
for sure,
like,
it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, because I remember like Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharp. I remember someone had tweeted him and said, hey, how can we never have Boosie on there? He goes, well, we don't pay for interviews, no shot to anybody who does, but that's just not our format.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He hasn't done Shannon Sharp because Shannon Sharp doesn't want to pay him.
Yeah.
And, that's that.
You're a big stock guy. Mm-hmm. Currently, the whole entire... It feels like Donald Trump's kind of purposely crashed the stock market and the economy into a wall a bit. I'm not sure, but my crypto's in the shitter. My NVIDIA stock's in the shitter. What are your thoughts on the current market and just if you had any game? Because a lot of people say it's times like these that real wealth is built, right? Sure. When there's market corrections that happen.
Absolutely. I wish I had more cash right now.
Which Warren Buffett has a lot of it, right?
Yeah, it's a whole lot of it. 100 billion or something like that.
No, it's like insane, right?
No, it's crazy. I don't really care that much either way because I'm not a trader. I'm an investor. Which means you're holding. So it's like just because your portfolio is down. I've got Google stock from 2010 that I never sold. Right. So it's a buying opportunity. It's definitely not a selling time right now, unless you actually need the money to do something specific with it. But I mean, the stock markets go up and down. These are just paper losses until you actually sell. Right. So unless you're panicking right now and selling, you're not really taking any losses at all. You're just seeing on paper, just not looking all that great right now. But then again, think about what happened right after the election. Like the amount of money on paper I was making from like my Tesla stock was just like mind-blowing. Insane. Mind-blowing. I'm like, God damn. Like it was just like, I can't believe, like, I've never made on paper that much money so quickly. No, it spiked up so fast. Yeah. It was like Tesla and Bitcoin. It was like, it was insane. Yeah, I mean, but everything, my Google stock, my Amazon stock, everything was just Meta stock up. Cracked, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shit, so. Do you feel like Elon, because you're a Tesla owner, I'm a Tesla owner. Yeah. Do you feel like Tesla as a company can survive the dark era Elon? That's good. Well, I mean, when I bought all of my Tesla stock was when Elon had just bought Twitter and everyone was mad at him. So it went down. And the Tesla stock was in the toilet. Yeah. Like I've made, I think I've more than doubled my money.
I just wonder if like because I saw him doing an interview with one of them Fox News guys yesterday, and they kind of asked him like, how are you able to like run your companies while doing this? And he looked just like it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay, Jesus.
And he's got like 14 kids.
14 kids, fucking Starlink, SpaceX.
You got the robots coming. Oh my
God. Like
Neuralink, yeah.
And then Tesla.
The Boring Company.
Yeah. Building freeways.
Solar City.
Yeah, it's wild.
I mean,
what was your take on his dad?
I didn't read his dad. His dad was a character, man. We set South Africa on fire with that interview.
Oh.
There's so many like people just, there was this part about like this home invasion that happened where he like killed a couple people, and he was saying that he was worried that there's something in South Africa called muti, which is basically like voodoo. But what the real extreme muti guys do is they actually chop up bodies and use different organs for these voodoo medicines and stuff like that. So he was like, I was worried that my daughter's head would end up in somebody's rearview mirror, like dangling from a rearview mirror, or some crazy like that. And people were like, "What the hell? Like a human head on a on a rearview mirror? Like when do you see that?" Like, but I mean, no, man, it was really smart guy, was well accomplished. I mean, it gave an interesting insight into Elon's upbringing, because he's like, Elon used to ride in Rolls Royces and fly private jets when he was like a teenager. Like I was doing well at the time. Like he didn't grow up poor and whatever else, but it also showed some of the, the craziness of it, of, he impregnated his stepdaughter. There was like a 40-something year age difference between the two.
His dad did that?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so he had a stepdaughter.
That's some real Woody Allen shit.
Yeah, I think I brought that up actually. So like his second wife had a stepdaughter who was like 4 years old at the time. And then, they got a divorce.
So by the time she got older.
By the time she became an adult, they started to talk to each other, which ended up, her having like 2 kids by him.
That's a wild boy right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But, it's like, the one thing that I kind of learned, though, was that it's always sort of been framed that Elon hates his dad and stuff like that, where the reality is the two of them actually do have a relationship. And he showed me like time and time again how actually Elon still stays in contact with him.
He defended him for the Roman salute, whatever you would like to call it.
Yeah, man, it was interesting. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever get an Elon Musk interview, but I got his dad. So
I'm surprised Trump didn't do Vlad TV.
We were in process. I mean, we got close
because he did everything.
We got close.
How close was it? Was it just?
I mean, one of the heads of media was really wanted it to happen, and we were talking back and forth. But the thing is, in these situations, is there's usually multiple layers of people you have to get through, and if one of them says no,
it's up
for whatever reason, then it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Kamala ever in contact about doing Vlad TV?
We were in an interview. We were talking to Kamala. I mean, there was a famous tweet that went on TMZ that basically said, if Kamala had done a Vlad TV interview, that may have affected the voting. But really what I said was, what I said was, had she done Vlad TV, if I really
it would have opened her up to a different audience.
Well, I said it would have been her biggest interview ever during the campaign. For sure. Because all of her other interviews essentially flopped.
For sure.
Including Call Me Daddy, including Shay Shay, All the Smoke didn't do all that well.
Yeah, no, I thought she went to safe spaces and
no one ever pushed the envelope.
No one pushed her.
Yeah, what I said was, if I had a real 2-3 hour sit down with Kamala, it would have eclipsed all these other interviews, which I still believe. But what I did say was that had she done Joe Rogan, she may have actually won. To say, I'm only going to do it at my location and for 30 minutes or whatever else.
It just shows you how tone deaf like her team was. I'm not saying it's her, but her team obviously, like you said, like had she done Rogan and showed like a real human side, because a lot of the stuff during the campaign was just really scripted, robotic.
I mean, even JD Vance did Rogan.
Them guys were just sitting down. Like the JD Vance Theo Vaughn interview was like, I was like, oh, this is a real guy. Like he's a dude. Like he watches football and shit. Like
they actually went and got in the trenches and really did what they were supposed to do. Whereas Kamala felt like, I remember I interviewed D.L. Hughley like right before he did the Democratic National Convention, and I remember I was criticizing Kamala for not doing Joe Rogan, and I remember one of D.L. Hughley's, the girl that does his show with him. Like afterwards, she like got all mad at me and she like cussed me out. She was like, "I disagree with what you said. Kamala is a sitting vice president."
No way.
So,
that happened.
Huh?
That happened?
Well, yeah. Like,
that explains. That's fucking crazy.
No. But this is not coming from Kamala's camp.
But I'm saying it's coming from D.L.
Hughley, who's actually like a big, like I say, he spoke at the
He is very much
Convention. Yeah, but I remember like me and her got into, it wasn't an argument, it was just a debate where she was like, "You're wrong. She's a sitting vice president and Joe Rogan needed to meet her on her grounds and blah, blah." And I'm like, well, he didn't. And it didn't happen. So, and look at and the result was that she lost fairly dramatically.
I mean,
this was a big loss.
I'm a lifelong Democrat.
And I voted for Kamala.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong Democrat, lifelong liberal, but I don't know how they fix the party unless they get real. Like they have to step out of this this plastic bubble that and the approach of knowing better than everybody else.
Yeah.
It's like maybe you don't know better than everybody else. Like maybe not. Like even like I wanted Kamala to do a real Charlemagne interview, not the radio shit that they did where listeners called in. It was just like, all right, well,
it was lame. Yeah, I mean, not lame because Charlemagne did it.
No, but he's
working with the scraps he's given.
The format, if it would have been them two, because Charlemagne has. I mean, I think he would have had a great conversation with her. But it's interesting. Is there anybody you wouldn't interview? I've heard you say notice you wouldn't do 6ix9ine, right?
Yeah, but I changed my mind on that.
You've evolved on that. Yeah. That's fair. I mean, he probably needs it right now. Charleston White, you wouldn't do?
The Charleston White thing is tied to my relationship with Boosie. So
that's fair.
Right. And at the end of the day, you try not to pick sides, but sometimes you have to pick sides.
Yeah.
And I've done 2 interviews with Charleston, but then Charleston started going off the deep end.
I saw Charleston just do a video talking about Asian babies.
Yeah.
And like how they should be like sodomized and killed. Right. And I was like, I could never have that dude on my shit. Like I know, like he's like the real life Uncle Ruckus. He's funny. Like if you're just scrolling and you're like, but there's just certain shit that like if you're the type of person to publicly say that shit, like I'm good. Like
he said, I remember when I said what I said. He's like he hopes my kids die and all this type of stuff. Like he just, and he was talking about, and Boosie was like, "Yo, man, this dude's talking about my kids." Like.
At the end of the day, you guys have a friendship and a business relationship.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Not worth fucking with.
And that's if you look at all the people I've had beef with over the years. Have you ever heard me talking about someone's kids, someone's parents, like people's loved ones? I've always stayed just at them.
Yeah, and pretty fact driven.
If I have a problem with you, I'm going to deal with you.
You're tweeting, man. You be flaming motherfuckers up on Twitter sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Bro. Sometimes, especially if someone doesn't do your shit and then they try to talk shit about you and then their album flops, you'd be like, so and so sold 8,000 copies. Maybe had they done Vlad TV, they could have sold 11,000 copies.
Talking about Sweetie, actually.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking
about. Would you do a Ye interview right now?
Who?
Kanye.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, I that's a bucket list interview for me.
I've interviewed Kanye before.
Back in the day?
Yeah, before Vlad TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost the interview. It was just audio. There's a picture floating around. You might be able to Google it. It was me, Common, and Kanye in the studio together.
Wow.
And I did the interview. Common was working with Kanye on his album. And I did the interview with Kanye in the booth. I lost it. I wasn't very well. It wasn't a great interview. I wasn't.
Right, but it'd be cool just to have, right? Like,
yeah, but it wasn't. There's no video. It was just audio. Right. But it won't be a walk in the park for either one of us.
I'm sure.
If that happens. So, yeah, I would do it. It wouldn't, but it would not be. I don't think he would do it because I don't think he could really take a sit down like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Where he's really held accountable. Right. Held over the fire.
Exactly. Yeah, he doesn't want to hear what I have to say. But I would do it.
I know, if I'm not mistaken, you and Soulja Boy have buried the hatchet. Is this, or has there been any sort of, I try to connect you with my boy Theo.
Nah.
Because you guys have one of the greatest interview moments ever. It's turned into cartoons.
Right.
It's a
turned
thing.
into a whole thing. Yeah. I mean, what's his name? I mean, that interview was so iconic that Childish Gambino redrew it in the Feels Like Summer.
Yes.
video.
It's an all-timer, man. It's an all-timer.
What's his name? Virgil wanted to use that video in his the Chicago Museum of Modern Art. He had a whole kind of thing at the museum, and they wanted to use that, but they didn't want to actually give me tickets to the premiere. They just want to give me like a general ticket to go to the museum.
They're like, hey,
the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you're using my shit. You're not paying me for it.
Right.
And I can't even go, it's very exclusive. I'm like, motherfucker, you're using my shit.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Fuck y'all. Like,
Don't
use my shit.
That makes sense.
But it was iconic. Soulja Boy got mad at me because
Didn't you interview somebody?
He talked about how there was like a whatever.
You interviewed someone involved in that story, right?
I interviewed the guy who he shot. Right?
Fair game.
He talked about shooting somebody, and then the guy who got shot wanted to do an interview, and it was legitimately the guy who got shot, and then he got mad at me for interviewing the guy who got shot, who he shot. Where really he should be thanking me because
you corroborated his crazy story.
I corroborated his crazy story, exactly.
Because most people were like, "This guy's." It was such an outlandish story that people, their first inclination will be not to believe it.
Right, but actually the guy who got shot actually did the interview. And then Soulja's mad. He's like, that triggered all types of PTSD when you did that. You shouldn't have done that. You know, I thought we was cool. We drove around in your Tesla afterwards. And it's like, I mean, I understand his point, but it's like, come on, man. It's not that. Like, seriously, like, you know how this works. Me and Soulja Boy never really had a close relationship like that. That was really one of the only.
You guys had moments.
That may have been I think that's the only interview we ever did. Like the only sit down interview we ever did. So I don't know. I think some people expect if they sit down with you, you now kind of owe them a certain type of thing for the rest of your life, where it doesn't quite work that way. You see what I'm saying? And I don't think we have any beef, but he's talked some shit about me. I talked some shit about him, and we haven't talked about each other in probably at least a year. So I don't think we have beef, but
I feel like at a certain point, knows? At a certain point in time, he's had beef with a lot of.
Who knows? He's beef with everybody. Like who's Soulja Boy? It's almost like an honor to get dissed by Soulja Boy at some point in your life. You know what I mean? Like, I got dissed by Soulja Boy. Let's check that off.
Hey, want to give a shout out to Hardeen, man. Listen, if you're in Vegas, the #1 dispensary in the world. The craziest selection of premium cannabis that you'll ever find anywhere. And the best part about Hardeen that I love, man, first of all, if you're going to go over there, mention my name, follow him, Hardeen_Las Vegas. But what I love about Hardeen is you go in there and you're never going to go to another place that's more educated on the weed that they're selling you, right? So maybe you are going in there and you're dealing with anxiety, or maybe you're going in there, you're dealing with inflammation. Maybe you're going in there, you just want to get a little trippy. I don't know. They're going to break down the terpenes for you and tell you which one is best for what you're looking for. It's crazy. Best bud tenders, best place in Vegas, best place in the United States. If you hit Vegas and you hit that taxi at that airport, take me to Hardeen. Follow him, Hardeen_Las Vegas. Check him out, HardeenLasVegas.com. Shout out to the Hardeen family. Hey, what up? Bootleg Kev here. Hey, want to give a shout out to our good folks at Blue Chew. Yes, shout out to Blue Chew, man. Look, guys, summer's coming. It's not coming, but it's like, I'm not going to lie. We're getting into March, so it's like springtime. Weather's getting a little hotter. And so should your bedroom situation. Listen, fellas, a lot of people always hit me about Blue Chew. They want to know, does Blue Chew work? Of course it does. You want to find out? Yeah? It's all good. Go to BlueChew.com right now. They're going to send you a month's supply for free. All you got to do is pay $5 shipping. It's going to your house in a discreet package. Now, what is Blue Chew? How does it work? First of all, your dick is going to work like it has never worked before. It's going to be as hard as this fucking table. If you got a girlfriend, if you got a first date, if you got a little side piece, you got a wife, they're going to thank you off that Blue Chew. All right? But listen, it is the same active ingredient as Viagra and Cialis, but it's packed into a chewable blue form. The best part about all of this, Because, sometimes going to the doctor and talking about erectile dysfunction, a lot of men are dealing with erectile dysfunction these days. Quite honestly, we're all desensitized from all that gooning we've been doing on the internet, all that porn, With that being said, you don't have to worry about going and sitting with a doctor face-to-face, going to a weird doctor's appointment. All that shit sucks. It's all online. It's all handleable right on BlueChew.com, very discreet, and it's sent right to your doorstep. Trust me when I say you got to give that Blue Chew a shot, fellas. Anybody with a dick, you got to give that Blue Chew a shot. I'm just telling you. Anyway, let's get back to the interview. How do you feel like, we talked a little bit about this election kind of being the podcast election, the untraditional media election, essentially. I think that's a big reason why Trump won.
Possibly.
And I think that this isn't going to be like a flash in the pan moment. I feel like moving forward, obviously the way they're opening up some of the White House access, whether you agree with it or not, to non-traditional media platforms. But, channels such as yourself and Joe Rogan and, the power of these platforms and the long form conversations is finally kind of being recognized. It can't be ignored. Do you feel like we're just kind of at the tip of the iceberg of new media? Because no one's watching CNN, respectfully. No one's watching. It's kind of background fodder. It's on.
People are watching the Diddy and Cassie video on CNN.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I don't think that people are not watching CNN. It's just CNN has competition now, so CNN has to step it up. Whereas before they didn't really have to step it up. Right. They were just ubiquitous.
But it's almost like their format of media is. It's not the lack. Look, they're restricted by commercial breaks and time slots and all this. As opposed
on
to
TV they are, but not on YouTube.
Right. And they try to do the streaming shit, and I feel like they're. But I just feel like there's this. I feel like we're just getting into this. We're the new. Obviously, new media has been a thing forever, but in terms of like the long form conversation, it has to be respected, and it you can't hide in those conversations.
Yeah, up until this era, it just wasn't possible to do long form conversation because it was a TV format or a radio format. Right. And now it is. And, but there's now a lot of people doing that. It's crazy that I have to compete for interviews with Paul George, who's an all-star basketball player.
Currently in the league.
Stinking
it up on the Sixers, respectfully.
Right, but still, it's Paul George. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, how do you compete with Draymond Green?
I got to compete with Draymond Green. I got to, compete with YG, who's doing podcasts.
I think that's over. I don't know if he's still doing it.
Okay, but I'm saying,
but for sure.
He had a run.
Yeah, he had Lil Wayne.
He had Lil Wayne.
Episode 1. Wayne don't do interviews.
Right. But it's YG. So it's I got to compete with people who have closer relationships than I do because they're peers with some of these people, with the people that they interview. So it's just it's harder, but but that's just life.
Yeah, I think you look at the people who, because a lot of artists, everyone's going to try to start a podcast in the next 5 or 6 years. It just is what it is. It's a cash grab for a lot of these folks. But you look at Drink Champs and the commitment. It was a commitment to this concept and to this, idea, and it's worked. Joe Budden, we can go. Yeah. Obviously Joe Budden's not an interview-based platform per se,
but he does interviews.
No, he does, but it's not based on interviews.
Right. Yeah, and shout out to Joe because I think Joe is one of the only figures in the space that's done well without constantly getting guests on his show. Right. Him and his own crew of people, the Melissa Fords and the other guys that are on there, and the Queen's Flip and stuff like that have created a platform that doesn't require guests because every other major platform that we talk about is all based on major guests.
Right.
Gilly, Drink Champs, my show.
Yeah, my show is guest driven.
It's all guest driven. So Joe's in a much better space. And this was sort of the whole thing of me starting the Vlad TV YouTube masterclass because this is something that's not going to be guest driven. This is actually, the guests are sort of, they add to it. It's
information driven.
But it's information driven and is based on actual subscribers, people who pay, $100 a month to get actual serious information. And think about it, like this over time could actually eclipse
Vlad TV.
the interview part of Vlad
Right.
TV.
Yeah, I mean, at 100 a pop, if you get, you know, I mean, you just do the math. There it is.
You do the math, exactly.
And it's a subscription thing, and, you know, as we know.
And it's monthly. You know, I mean, let me tell you, like, the Vlad TV $5 membership makes more money than my Facebook, my Snapchat, and my Spotify combined.
Wow.
Think about that.
Do you use Social Lemon for your Snap show?
Social Lemon actually handles my Snapchat.
They do my shit too,
as well as my Facebook.
Shout out to Dean.
Yeah, shout out to Dean.
Those Snapchat checks are lovely too. They're great.
I mean, they
not bad. Yeah,
fluctuate.
They fluctuate.
They
But,
fluctuate.
you know, you'll be surprised. You're like,
listen, man, it was. I have to do no work, and I get a check.
dude, I just got I just had my biggest month last month, and I was like,
Oh, really?
all right,
Yeah.
let's go Snapchat.
Yeah. Shout out to Dean.
And Facebook is a thing that like people don't even like if you can get your Facebook in that bag, it can print money.
Oh man, I've had Facebook make in the high 6 digits certain years. Not recently, but you know, some years back, Facebook was on fire. And look, man, I always looked at it as like, yo, if you keep creating dope content, as new platforms spring up, you will find a place on those platforms.
Yeah.
If you take it seriously. So to me, it's not really surprising, but you know, it's cool when it happens.
How do you feel about the new? You know, there's the streaming and then the IRL streaming. You just had Neon on.
Yeah.
It's kind of changed the landscape of certain artist rollouts where you'll see people who never do interviews go and sit with Kai Cenat.
Correct.
You've seen guys like Elliott Wilson be pretty critical of some of these new guys, you know. But what are your thoughts on just this new medium and these new personalities? I love Kai. I think he's great. But what are your thoughts on just where the where does the streaming world fit in? And
I mean, I think it's amazing. I think that you had this group of young guys who sort of incorporated video games into a real-time streaming show. And this is something I've always avoided myself because I would rather control the final product. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you never know. If something happens live, it's out there forever.
Live.
Yeah.
It's live. You know, like, I mean, I remember maybe about a year ago or so, like, China Mac had me on a show on a live stream, and then he sort of created.
It was a prank. Yeah.
But the prank involved people saying they're going to go get their gun. You know what I'm saying?
And it put you in a precarious situation.
It put me in a very weird situation because, you know, I had a weapon on me as well during that time. And it was like, luckily, I didn't do anything with it.
Right.
But it was like, this is happening. This is streaming. Like, I can't really, like, I'm stuck because I can't really do anything because I know that this is all being recorded by everyone watching it. And of course, it's coming out as we're doing it. And this was like, you know, that's where, like, me and him, we kind of stopped working together because I was like, this worked out okay this time, but
yeah, it's just a weird situation to put somebody in.
It could have been
right. Like if
very
you're gonna,
different.
Like, look, if we're gonna do a prank, give me the heads up before it happens, so I'm not caught off guard.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But you know, but these guys like the Neons and the Kai Cenats and the Aiden Rosses, like they flourish in this type of environment.
Yeah,
you know, and they've done great. They've made millions and millions of dollars. And I've always embraced, like, I've never been like the old man on the porch. You know, like I've always listened to new music. I've always embraced new content creators. Like, you know, like I said, like even with me and you, when you're like, hey, come do my show, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it right now, but I will do it at some point.
Right.
If you stay with it and you keep taking it seriously, like I will come and do it. Right. Because I'm respecting what you're doing. It's just not the right time right now.
Yeah, it's people don't know, like there was a point in time of Vlad TV's history where you were like reaching out to kind of like different personalities. I think Jenny Boom Boom from Connecticut.
Charlemagne's first appearance outside of South Carolina was on a Vlad TV mixtape.
But I'm talking about even just
Right.
like, I remember you wanted like different kind of correspondence. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I see what you're doing down there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, Jenny Boom Boom did some stuff for me. My man Sean Perez does
Yeah.
stuff for me. Lunell's done stuff for me. BG Knockout has
Yeah.
done interviews for me. Like, yeah, I mean, we played around. Saigon had his own show.
How many interviews current or interviewers outside of yourself will have? Because even like, I don't know the guy's name because I've never
Sean
seen
Perez?
Is that the guy who will do some of the like the shit in New York with like some of the? I saw some dude who was in prison. He was interviewed. It was a great fucking interview. But this was maybe like 7 months ago. But so was he the main voice outside of yourself?
Yeah. I'm not sure about the interview you're talking about, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I forget which one it was, but it was
But
definitely.
yeah, no, Sean does a lot of stuff for me. You know, Sean is sort of like my second guy in terms of everything that I feel that he might be better at. Because Sean was a bad boy for a very long time, right?
Yeah.
So there's people like Lil C's and so forth that he could interview that he has a rapport with him already that I don't have. I mean, I know C's, but I don't know him like Sean Perez knows him. And yeah. Yeah, but that stuff is hard to pull off, man. Like, you know, we've tried having shows with people on camera, and, you know, Gloria Velez had a show that didn't do well.
Saigon
had a show that, you know, just sort of hobbled along, and it just wasn't profitable.
Yeah.
You know, we've tried it. But it's not easy. You know, even when you have an established platform, creating a new show is hard. And this is why when you don't have a platform trying to create a show, it's even harder. This is why you see so many people that jump in the podcast game and then jump out.
They jump out quick. Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen you a couple of times over the last year or so kind of walk back certain things or apologize to certain people. I saw you apologize to Shirley. You and Shirley had a shout out to Shirley. She's if you've been to any event where there's weed in LA, she's there with a bag of shit. And then there was the young lady who you guys had a back and forth on Twitter.
The whole Princeton thing?
Yes. For you, those are two totally separate situations. But let's talk about the Princeton thing. Was that something like? Was it the outrage that came from the initial situation that pressured you into that, or was it like? Did you take time and reflect and be like, you know what? I jumped out. I got emotional.
Well, I mean, I had someone that was close to me.
Yeah.
That me and him were like talking over the course of like that week, and he sort of explained the other side of things. And I guess with me in that particular situation, because if you look at what happened there, I had made a comment. I said, Not Like Us had just dropped.
Yeah.
And I said, yo, the mixed quality of Not Like Us takes away from how great the song is. And if you look at that statement later on, Kendrick's engineer said the mix came out rough because Kendrick wanted it out in like 2 hours.
Right.
And he said they redid it afterwards and fixed it. What I said was actually correct. Right?
Makes sense, yeah.
I didn't say the song is whack. I didn't make any statements about
strictly as an audio guy. You made a critique on
someone
the mix
who's a DJ who has a DJ background, who listens to audio every single day because I have a video production company, and constantly I'm thinking about the mix quality and how certain things a little bit out of whack and so forth. I'm like, yo, just the mix quality is a little bit off, you know. And I remember later on, I didn't realize that her uncle was Rodney Jerkins. Who I have a relationship with. I've been to his home. I'd interviewed him at his house, and we kept in contact. I remember when me and him talked, I started explaining the situation. He goes, hold on, let me stop you. You're absolutely right. The mixed quality is bad.
Right.
So he agreed with me right off the top. So when I made the comment about the mixed quality, and she responded saying, you are white. This is black folks' business. You're not allowed to even comment on this.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm looking at her profile. I'm like, this is a Princeton professor. Like, she's got to be trolling. Like, this can't be something a Princeton professor actually says.
Right.
This is a university that has a very diverse
student body. She has a diverse group of students that she teaches to, yeah.
So I started just trolling back. Oh, you know, I'm going to call your university and, you know, report this or whatever. So I wasn't serious about it. I thought she was trolling, so I started trolling back. And then the thing is, when I'm doing it, I'm not looking at her as anything but a Princeton professor. I went to UC Berkeley. I understand what an Ivy League caliber college represents.
Right.
Right. Berkeley is essentially the Ivy League of, public universities. It's considered one of the top universities, right? So I'm like, this can't really be serious. But I'm looking at her like I'm debating a college professor.
Right.
I'm not thinking that this is going to be painted as Vlad is trying to get a black woman fired.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that at all.
And you're in the heat of the moment.
I'm in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
And I was going through some really fucked up shit in my life during that time,
Right.
just to be honest. I'm going through some really fucked up shit in my personal life during that time. And that affected me as well. But I was not serious. I wasn't trying to get her fired. I never called the university. It was trolling and it was going back and forth, I felt, right? But then this got painted as this white man is trying to get this black woman fired.
Right.
And so me and, I'm not going to say who it is because he wanted to remain behind the scenes, but he was just like, by you saying you're going to report her to her job, like you're taking this beyond
over
a Twitter spat. It's a Twitter spat.
Right.
This shouldn't affect someone's job. No one should lose their job over a Twitter spat. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I went overboard with that part. What I'm saying? I still defend my stance over saying, what the mixed quality of is. I'm allowed to comment on it, and no one can tell me that I can't. But I'm like, the whole thing about that, I'm going to contact your job, like that was some bullshit.
Learning moment.
Yeah, it was a learning moment. I didn't mean it. I never did it.
Right.
She still has her job, last I checked.
Yeah.
Me and her uncle had a long conversation, me and Rodney Jerkins, and he was like, hey, man, thank you for not getting my niece fired. What I mean? I'm like, I wasn't trying to get her fired. I talked to him about me and her possibly having a conversation, possibly doing an interview. She wasn't interested in any of that shit.
Right. Well, I mean,
yeah. So I'm like, but I felt in that particular moment, saying, tagging her job and stuff like that
was definitely,
I was wrong for that.
Yeah. At least you admitted to it.
Yeah, and I said, and when I apologized, I said, and I try to keep it very short,
right?
Because the longer you go,
they can pick it.
They pick away, they pick away that, and of course they picked away to being short. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I was wrong for that. I didn't mean, I never meant, for her to ever lose her job. I never called her job. I never try to get her fired in any capacity. I hope she has a great career. What I'm saying? She seems like a very, intelligent young woman, who has unfortunately, some bigoted parts to her personality. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I did apologize for it. And, that's why I'm able to talk about it.
Do you think Drake comes back all the way from this beef? All the way? Or do you think it'll ever be the same?
Absolutely. He could absolutely do it.
Yeah.
Everyone, listen, I think
he's always going to be successful, but will it ever be the same?
Absolutely, he could be the same. He could even be bigger.
All right.
No, seriously, a hit song fixes everything. There was a video of R. Kelly urinating at an underage girl, and some of his biggest songs came out after that. Not before. He was already big before.
Hey, you're right.
Ignition, the Ignition remix.
Was TP2.com after the P video? I think it was, right?
I think it was before.
It was before. But then there was
Step in the Name of Love. Yep. Some of his biggest songs. I Believe I Can Fly. Did that come out afterwards?
No. I Believe I Can Fly was Space Jam soundtrack. So
okay. So maybe not that. But I'm saying a bunch of his massive songs came out and everybody saw this P video. This was in every hood, music store.
It was everywhere, dude.
Swap
it was
meet.
Fucking everywhere.
It was on garage sales.
It was fucking everywhere.
Yeah, because this was the VHS era.
Yes.
You could just copy whatever you want to copy. They were literally selling it at the swap meet.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. But, but we didn't know what it was. We weren't trying to, it's not like, we want to see what happened. It's like, is this really R. Kelly?
And it was.
And it was R. Kelly. Oh, shit, let me get rid of this. I don't want this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
Yeah, but you're watching not to see it. You just want to see if it's really, you look like, oh, shit, that's really R. Kelly. You know what I'm saying? So it's just sort of R. Kelly could turn around and have the biggest hits of his career after peeing on an underage girl. So you mean to tell me that Drake can't come back and be a megastar just because he got a beef with a rapper?
Right.
All the underage shit, all the pedophile stuff that Drake, that Kendrick accused him of, doesn't seem like it was true. This was just just like Drake accusing Kendrick of the daughter not really being his. That's not true either.
Right. And just like every other beef that's ever existed, there's always just shit. I mean, we don't know if Tupac fucked Faith Evans.
Yeah, I think he did.
We don't know.
Everything I've heard from people around Tupac, pretty sure it happened. But what I want to say is, if Drake doesn't get back to where he is or become bigger, it's because Drake has that insecurity about himself. Just like Ja Rule, when 50 started going at him, Ja Rule could have said, fuck this guy. I'm going to drop, Always on Time Part 2.
No, instead he tried to do the blood
clap
in my
back.
eyes and clap
blood
back.
in my eyes.
Yeah.
Suddenly he had to... He got out of his mode and tried to become more gangster like 50.
I mean, because the biggest record that came out after the beef was New York, probably, right?
And that was actually a good direction.
It was a great record, but it was still not like...
It wasn't what Ja Rule was known for.
Right. It's like, he was just double down on your shit.
Double down. And I think that's kind of what Drake is doing with this Party, this Party Next Door album. It's like,
just double down on your shit.
Let me get back to my girl records.
Yeah, that's my Nokia records.
That's my, and I thought, listen, I hit up Party Next Door. I was like, yo, bro, great project, great album. It's been on repeat. I thought it was...
I'd like to be on the record to say I think the project is mid, but I love Nokia.
You think it's mid?
I like Nokia. Nokia is great.
There's a bunch of bangers.
There's like 3 on there.
No, I mean, listen.
Look, it's all subjective.
It's also not a Drake album by himself. He also has Party Next Door, and Party Next Door, hasn't had a lot of commercial success over the years.
Right. He's kind of been like an underground R&B.
Exactly.
Like
so when you have a megastar doing a project with someone who is not a megastar himself, It's not like doing a project with Future.
Right.
Where these are 2 top guys. This is someone who's in his camp that's probably been writing for him for a while. He's been wanting to do this for a while, and they kind of... It was designed as, it dropped on Valentine's Day and so forth.
I get it. No, I mean, look, Nokia's great. I love the song.
Yeah.
I've never heard you talk about this. Who's your top 5 all time? MCs all time?
All time?
Personal.
Your
personal top 5. We all know like the big list. Jay-Z, Tupac.
I mean, Tupac is definitely on the list.
Okay.
Right? Be Real from Cypress Hill.
Okay.
Ice Cube.
Okay.
That was getting hard.
We got Tupac, Be Real, Ice Cube.
Yeah.
Loving the West Coast energy so far.
Yeah. Well, I'm a West Coast guy.
Of course you are.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it gets tough.
You got 2 more slots, man.
Now it gets tough. Because I don't want to go with the obvious ones, like Biggie. No.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate you not going with the obvious ones.
No, but I had to put Tupac on that list because Tupac really is Tupac. 50 Cent.
Okay, I respect that.
Mm-hmm. I'm really trying to really give you like a real answer here, as opposed to just naming the people that everyone else is naming.
I like it so far. We have 50, Be Real, Tupac, Ice Cube,
Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great list.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Very, very different.
Yeah.
I love that list.
Yeah, but these are all people that I feel like really impacted me, really made me love the genre. Really made me want to devote my life to it and so forth.
That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great list, man.
Yeah.
What is your favorite album of all time? Hip hop. Let's go strictly hip hop.
I mean, I really love Illmatic.
Yeah, it's a perfect body of work. 10 songs, 1 feature.
Yeah, I really love Illmatic. But the Chronic, the original Chronic,
yeah,
I think is definitely one of them as well. I mean, I loved Midnight Marauders.
Shot the Tribe.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it's right there
on your wall. I loved that was just an incredible piece of art. I really loved Balloon Mind State by De La Soul.
Yes.
Just a brilliant creative album. You know, getting to interview them, you know, was really like an honor. Yeah, I'll leave it at those.
I love those.
Yeah.
What is the interview that, give me 2 or 3 interviews from a fan's perspective, not from like, it'll do views. Obviously, you'd love to interview Drake. Obviously, you'd love to interview fucking Trump, whoever. Just being a fan, whether it's music, movies, culture.
Oh, it's an interview I haven't done yet?
Something you haven't done that you're just like, man, I want to do this interview so
Eminem.
bad. M. Yeah.
Me and M are like the same age, right? I think we're maybe born maybe 6 months apart.
Yeah.
You know, always felt like he did the beard thing because of me. No, but it's like I feel like me and M have sort of a similar experience in terms of our love for hip hop. I mean, obviously he's an artist.
Yeah.
I never went that direction, and he became one of the biggest ever to do it. But in terms of just the love before what led up to us pursuing these careers in hip hop, the actual love for the art form and us both being white and, you know, that aspect of it, I don't think he's ever done an interview like that with somebody where it's a really just a sit down,
organic.
Yeah,
I mean that's the one thing about him. His interviews are very protected. He does them. You know, shout
out with Crooked Eye, right? But those are very specific, done.
But a free form. Let's just sit down and shoot the shit.
Let's just sit down.
Like, bro, you're in a safe space. I'm not gonna make it look crazy, but let's just sit
down. If me and M sat down for 2 or 3 hours, I think it would be the biggest thing he's ever done,
media-wise, for sure.
Media-wise.
Yeah.
By a long run.
His new album's fucking incredible. The one that dropped last year is fucking incredible.
He always comes hard.
Do you still being at this stage of your career? Obviously it's a part of your gig, right? Because you interview up and coming artists. Mm-hmm. Are you still a fan of the new shit?
100%. I just interviewed Ari Spears, and we talked about how I still listen to new music and he does not.
Right.
I still like Spotify, the new releases. I try to go through everything. All the major albums, I try to go through everything because I really try to, like, if an album really has a big following organically, I want to know artistically why.
Right.
And I try to find that out. Now I don't always catch it. I don't quite get Playboy Cardi,
bro.
Right, but
this is the one guy.
But I will listen to the album when it drops.
Me too. But listen, I'm glad you said Playboy Cardi. I'm 38. I know you're a little older than me.
51.
But Playboy Cardi is the lone artist in the world that I am perplexed by.
Yeah.
Because I like Die Lit, but all the new shit that I've been seeing this motherfucker on stage screeching like it's a fucking seance. I'm gonna be at Rolling Loud this weekend. And they just love this fucking guy. And he's the one artist that is, I get Uzi, I like Uzi, but a lot, even like I like Destroy Lonely, his artist, but Playboy Cardi is the one guy where it's just.
No, listen, I remember we dropped that one song. I don't remember
in New York, I'm Millie Rock, yeah.
No. It's one song and I'm like, oh, okay, he got Future to do a verse on his song. That's dope.
Right.
Oh, okay. So he's going to go on after Future, and he doesn't go on after Future. And then I realize it's not Future.
It's Playboy Cardi.
It's Playboy Cardi sounding just like Future.
Right.
Like I can't tell it apart.
He's just got that weird pitch too, which maybe is just like aesthetically not for me. Like where it's like me. It's like
the whole.
But
thing
kudos to him.
Yeah, no, listen.
I had a very interesting interview with him where he was not engaged whatsoever. Oh yeah, Real 92.3. He was not into it. He did not want to be there. It was all good, but I got to interview Cardi. There
you go.
It was what it was. His artist Destroy Lonely. Him and I had a great conversation. That's interesting. But I feel like I'll talk to people, mostly radio personalities, because I'm a radio guy, and they don't even give a fuck about this shit. Like they're like just doing a job. They don't care about new music, and I'm like,
I give a shit.
Like, what are you doing if you're like?
I give a shit about this. Like, I actually care about this, and
like I get so excited when I find a new artist that I love.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I first found Big X the Plug a couple of years ago. Every artist who I like came in, I would try to put them on. Like, yo, you heard of Big X the Plug? Like, I remember I had Young Nudie on, and we were talking about new artists, and I was like, you got to check out Big X the Plug. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember like finding a guy like that, or Mexican OT, or I just get so excited when I find a new artist, you know?
Yeah. You gotta love this shit, man, because it doesn't always love you back.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta love this shit.
At a certain point in time, if you are committed to the amount of bandwidth and the amount of effort that it takes for you to have a platform such as yourself, you have to have a certain level of passion and love.
Yeah.
And genuine interest, right?
Yeah.
Because even when it's the non-musical guest, I feel like those are my favorite Vlad interviews. To be quite honest, like, it's very seldom like you have a rapper on and I watch the interview. If you have like some random ass like stockbroker or Grant Cardone or like a lawyer, I'm like, oh, this is good. Or like a real estate guy, like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I realized early on that we were not going to be like the media darlings that some of these radio guys are. Like, I don't get along with a lot of these labels. I don't get along with a lot of these PR people, especially at the labels. I don't get along with a lot of the managers and whatever else. Like, a lot of them view me like they almost try to separate me from the artist. Like, for example, I had Moray on recently.
Yeah. Prior to him, I'm sure his old team was like, don't do Vlad.
Well, that was the whole thing. That's what we talked about in the interview. I was like, yo, you know that when you were on that run originally, we reached out and they said, you know, we're not interested. And he was like, I was never told that. He's like, I would have done it if I was told that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you know, you mentioned the whole Sweetie situation. It was like,
and she's a sweetheart, by the way. She's great.
Yeah, well, you know, and that was the whole thing with me and Shirley Jew, is like Shirley like had told me that the PR person at Warner Brothers like hated me and was gonna block every interview that ever came across her desk. And it was like, and then that's when Sweetie sold like whatever, a couple thousand copies, and I was sort of pissed off about that. Because I was just like...
Hey, like, no fault to Sweetie. It was obviously...
And then Sweetie was like... You know, and I remember when I tweeted it and the tweet went viral, I was like, yeah, Sweetie would have sold way more if she did a Vlad TV interview. And then she responds, she's like, I never had any idea... Like, this interview wasn't pitched to me.
Right.
She's like, I'm actually a fan. And she's like, look, I'm watching your Snoop video right now. And I'm like, yeah, see, this is the bullshit I'm talking about. These artists have these middlemen between them or middle women between them that go out of their way to block the shit. So my point to your question is, I knew that this shit was going to keep happening over and over again because of the type of interviews that I do. Like, these are not the walk in the park interviews that when they go to, like, you know, Hot 97, whatever else. So I'm like, yo, we got to go left field with it. We got to go find people that everyone's not hitting up for interviews right now that aren't on promo runs and everything else like that. This is where like the gangster interviews came in.
You got or just like bodyguards, old body. Like, you just have, if anybody's a part of a story, obviously we were joking about this earlier. I was like, if somebody was fucking working the front desk at the lobby the night someone got shot in that motherfucking lobby, Vlad will find the guy and we'll have him on the podcast.
Yeah, but some of these interviews become the biggest, like I said.
For sure.
Like, you know,
I mean, dude, Keefe D is an interview like nobody would have thought to do, and, you know.
It became huge. Yeah, Roger Bonds, like, who knows about Roger Bonds that didn't work at Bad Boy?
Right.
You know, at the time. Outside of that company, he was a completely unknown person. But like I said, that became a huge interview just because of, you know, the access that he had.
Who are the current regulars? We got Boozy, obviously.
Oh, there's a
Whack.
bunch. I mean, Whack 100, Boosie, Ari Spears, TK Kirkland, Oskino. Mano is a new repeat guest. You know, we did a couple episodes with him.
Shout out to Mano.
You know, hopefully we'll do more. I mean, actually, if I went to my computer, I could tell you there's literally about
there's a lot.
People.
What about, is there a...
and I apologize to everyone who I'm forgetting right now.
Is there a topic, a subgenre, I mean, you've
Michael Jai White,
for sure.
Gilbert Arenas,
you've
John
obviously
Sally.
You've done like biker gangs, you've done the mob. Is there a subculture, area in which you are extremely interested in exploring and starting some interviews in whether it's, I mean, there's so much stuff you haven't touched on, obviously, in the world. Like, I just watched this crazy ass show on Netflix about the Mormon Mafia back in the day.
The Mormon Mafia. I mean, it'd be cool to do the Russian mob. You know, these guys just don't seem to talk very much.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Would you get more involved in, like, you've obviously interviewed a bunch of politicians, but, like, for example, like, you have this interesting perspective on the Ukrainian.
By the way, I heard the Russian mob is very upset at Kanye right now.
Really?
Well, because there's a lot of Jews in the Russian mob.
Oh, well.
So the whole swastika thing, yeah.
He should chill. He might want to chill.
Or I've heard about some death threats that have been happening and so forth.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean, I feel like if Zelensky's in America, he should come and do Vlad.
That would be awesome.
I feel like you have the perspective. Like, yeah, that.
I would love that.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Like, what's his face? What's the dude who always wears the suit? Lex Friedman. Like, he traveled to Ukraine to do an interview. Would you go through, like, let me give you, like, if Putin would do an interview with you, would you go to Russia to do it?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Yeah, I would do Zelensky. I would do Putin. I would do any president. You know, I mean, I've done. I mean, what have I done in terms of political wise? I mean, I've interviewed the mayor of D.C. I mean, I interviewed the governor of Maryland.
Yeah. You got to interview our governor here.
I tried.
Ask him why the fuck he's doing podcasts instead of fucking.
I tried.
Yeah.
You know, I interviewed Rod Blagojevich, who was a former governor of Illinois.
And he got pardoned, right? Or did he just get out? Was that the guy who went to prison?
He went to jail for a while.
No, he went to prison for like 9 years, right?
I don't know if it was 9 years.
It was a while.
But yeah, Trump, I believe, pardoned him.
Trump pardoned him, right? Yeah.
So.
And he just got a new book.
Probably.
Yeah.
That was a cool interview.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've dabbled in politics. I wish I could do more, but I have to be in more of those circles.
What about before you get out of here, the interview that came the closest to happening, the biggest one, but for whatever reason, when it got to the 1 yard line to the goal line, it just didn't happen. Someone canceled. Someone got sick. Yeah, got blocked.
I mean, it doesn't usually happen at the goal line. It's usually like, you know, that it's not going to happen. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we were talking to Trump's people, and I had a guy that was legitimately in that camp, like, you know, was legitimately booking interviews, and he just couldn't push it through. You know, I was talking to Kamala's people, like I was talking to the right person, and they were like, sorry, you know, it's just not going to happen.
Right. You did RFK, right?
Yeah, I did RFK. Yeah. That's another one.
RFK
that became his biggest interview ever.
Yeah.
He's mad at me over some of the questions.
Really?
Yeah.
Which question was he mad about?
I think it was about his ex-wife's suicide.
Oh,
and
yes.
And how she had found...
that he was cheating, right?
That he was cheating. And I don't think anyone had ever asked him that before. So I think he was like, fuck this Vlad guy. And I remember I ran into him afterwards, and you could tell he
did not fuck with you.
Didn't like me very much. But I'm doing my job. So, and it became his biggest interview ever. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Have you had 19 Keys on?
No.
I feel like you guys would have a good conversation. Really? Yeah. 19 Keys is a great guy. You guys should do it. This masterclass, is it live?
Yes.
So right now, if I go and I pay $100, what is there already a piece of content?
You get four lessons, and then an interview with academics talking about how he built up his YouTube channel. So each you get five episodes,
right?
And
so each lesson is separate of Okay, that's dope.
Yeah, and then every so for example, near the end of the month, we're going to drop another lesson and another exclusive interview. So the next lesson is going to be about how to fix your demonetized videos. So there's actually...
That is a very... That's worth the...
Oh, yeah. No,
because there's companies... We just had a company reach out to us about taking over the YouTube channel, like a multi-channel network, even though they're like, we hate that word. And they're like, we got direct access to get all your demonetized videos green again.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But we go into the process of what we do to prepare the videos to get them monetized. And then we talk about all the different ways that you could, once it's demonetized, how you can get it back. And there's actually, at the end of the video, there's a method that's not even really documented.
I want to see that.
There's
because I had my NBA YoungBoy interview, man. It did about 1 million, and then it got yellowed.
Yeah.
Fucking hit a wall.
So there's actually, if you watch this video, and most YouTubers I talk to don't even know about this.
Oh, I'm excited.
Because it's not really, you can't do it within the YouTube studio. You have to go outside the studio. There's a special URL and there's a process you go through that you could get a video that's already gone through the review and been rejected to actually potentially get it back. And we've had a lot of videos that we've gotten back by using this method. And had I known this, I probably lost about I've probably lost about $1 million by not knowing this. So, you know, this is where the $100 comes in. It's like, yeah, it's not cheap. Like, you know, this is really for people who are serious.
Right.
But the kind of stuff that we give you, I feel is very important information.
Does it bother you that people will crack off of your shit or they'll go to you before they become superstars, but then won't come back once they make it?
Yeah, that's life.
Yeah.
We did like Migos' first interview.
21 Savages. I remember the
21 Savages' first interview.
It's a knife.
It's a knife. Yeah. Big Sean, one of his early interviews. Right. Yeah, I mean, but look, at the end of the day, you can't really take it personally.
Right.
Right? Because it's not like these are like your lifelong friends and they've gone on, whatever. It's like, look, at the time, it made sense for them and it made sense for me. But at a certain point, when artists get to a certain level, you know, they feel that they are, you know, they should position themselves with some other type of platforms. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's
almost like, oh, well, I'm too good to do Vlad now.
Well, I don't even think it was too good to do Vlad, because if you put yourself in that mindset, you're going to drive yourself crazy. It's like, look, like at the end of the day, it was almost like, you know, like how our situation was. Like, you approached me and I said, hey, I'm going to pass for now.
Right.
But in the future, I think it is going to make sense.
Yeah, it made sense.
Now, what if, you know, like when did I tell you that I'm passing? It was like about 3 years ago or so?
Yeah, it was probably 2021.
Right, so 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, you have how many followers right now on YouTube?
Oh, about 500,000.
Okay, so let's just say, how many followers did you have at the time?
Probably like 50.
50,000, right? So let's just say 4 years pass, and now you have 75,000 followers.
Then it's like, hey, does it make sense?
The answer would still be no.
Right, for sure.
Right?
Makes sense, yeah.
Because I still don't find an advantage based on the size of your audience.
Right.
To you know, and it's not like I'm charging you for the interview or anything else like that. I'm doing it because I feel that it's worthwhile for me as well.
Right.
And you find it worthwhile for you.
For sure.
You could have called. I could have called you, and you could have been like, nah, like a Vlad TV, really isn't worthwhile for me. I'm too big for that right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It could have gone either way.
Right.
So you have to really look at it. Like, when it comes to these interviews, you can't just keep taking it personally and so forth. You got to be like, all right, does both of our agendas, you know, meet right now, where it's mutually beneficial?
For sure.
And
I mean, I say no to shit all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody hits me up with 100 followers, like, hey, I got a new podcast. I'm like, dude.
I say no to shit all the time also. And this is where sometimes the money makes a difference.
Right.
Where it's like, you know, and like, there's certain people like Boosie, you know, he'll
Did you do Danza?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in Miami.
Yeah. I did the same thing.
Yeah, I did Danza. You know, I mean, I've done Drink Champs.
Right.
You know, my Drink Champs episode is probably my favorite interview that I did on someone else's platform.
It was incredible. And then I forget which academics one you did, but it was very long, and it was just, for a creator, it was just hella game. So last question, what would be your advice to anyone trying to start a platform, a YouTube channel, a podcast, and try to get into the space that you are currently one of the leaders in?
Well, the first thing they need to do is join the Vlad TV YouTube Masterclass.
$100.
That's the first thing. They would invest $100 and go through those 4 episodes, and that'll give them a blueprint about how to do it. But to answer your question, you have to, and I talk about this in one of my episodes, is like, you have to figure out what is authentically you, as opposed to trying to emulate something that's already out there.
Right.
Right? There already is a Academics, right? Academics was the first hip hop streamer.
Right.
He is never scared to tell his opinion.
Right.
Even with people who he's cool with.
Right.
His so-called friends in the industry, he'll still talk about the negative shit if that's occurring in real time.
Yeah.
And if that means the relationship is over, then the relationship is over, right? He's willing to put his neck out to do that, whereas a lot of people are not. Now, you can't just do that if you're not DJ Academics. Like, that's sincerely who he is. Like, me and Academics are actually friends. Like, you know, we had dinner, you know, like a few weeks ago in New York. You know what I'm saying? Just to hang out. You know, there's really, like, Charlemagne is Charlemagne. Vlad and his police ask questions. Like you can't just fake. Like, I'm really
there
interested
are a lot
in
of
shit.
fake Vlads.
Yeah, but
there's a few channels where I'm like, oh, this is like a rip-off Vlad type.
Well, I mean, I don't say it's a rip-off. It's their version of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But the ones that really do well are the people that are just sincerely, that's really who they are, and they really embrace it 100%. Kai Cenat is not an industry plant. He was not put there.
No, he got there by being himself.
He got there by being himself, and by combining, he really loves video games. He's not doing it for the check. He really loves video games. He really loves hip hop, and he found a way to combine it all in a real time situation. So you have to figure out what it is that makes you unique, and everyone's unique in their own type of way, as opposed to saying, yo, I just heard that so-and-so got a big check, you know, for their podcast. So
let me go chase that.
Let me go chase that. Let me try to be a mini Joe Rogan, because I just heard he got 100 million. So I'm going to do Joe Rogan type shit, hoping that I'll get Joe Rogan type success. But that's not going to happen.
I'm surprised you've never been on Rogan, by the way. Random side.
He's used a bunch of my clips.
I know,
over the interviews. Yeah. I mean, I would love to do Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
I would love to do it. But, you know, for whatever reason, he hasn't called me to do it, and I don't think you could really request to be on Joe Rogan. He has to, you know.
It just kind of happens.
And, you know, look, so Joe Rogan is the big dog in this industry.
Yeah,
like, he could get whoever he wants to get. You know, he just did Antonio Brown, but I've done Antonio Brown as well. You know?
CTESPN.
CTESPN.
Have you gotten Cracker of the Year nominated? Well, listen, man, I appreciate the time.
Of course.
The masterclass sounds dope. $100. Also, just the $5 membership is. I've been a member for a couple years, so I get to get the. I like to get the whole shit. So go subscribe, and yeah, man. I mean, you still got the website cranking, or is Vlad TV still up?
VladTV.com. Yeah, we stopped doing news for a little while, but then we started doing it again. You know what I'm saying? I think, by the way, because you mentioned, you said, oh, the Errol Musk interview didn't come out right away. I think it was because
the clip dropped first.
The clip dropped first because it just, the whole Nazi salute thing had just happened.
You got it out. You pumped it out.
We tried to get it out right away.
Right.
And the rest of the footage was coming from South Africa.
Right. That makes
you see what I'm saying? So I think it just came out a couple of days later.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I mean, I think honestly, I really feel strongly about the YouTube Masterclass. I really, really feel. And look, on top of the lessons, the exclusive interviews, I'm going to start doing lives on that channel. And since there's not a huge number of members right now,
mostly probably serious people too, if they're putting up $100.
Serious people. So I'll be able to actually, when I start doing these lives, I'll be able to directly answer people's questions.
Oh, that's
in
dope.
Real time on the live, and then those lives will go just for the YouTube Masterclass tier.
I love it
by itself. So I honestly think that, you know, I'm going to make people a lot of money who really take this seriously.
Go subscribe, man. I'm gonna check it out for sure.
You should.
I want to see that. The we got to get them yellow videos green, baby. You should check.
Yeah, that's not out yet, but that's coming up next.
No, for sure.
That's coming up next.
Well, Vlad, I appreciate your time.
I actually wrote it out today.
I love it.
Just so you know.
I appreciate your time, man. Everyone go support, and yeah, thanks for coming through, buddy. Finally, we made it happen.
This is the first interview on my promo run.
I appreciate
about the YouTube Masterclass, and it just goes to show, man. When I tell people like I don't just talk. I'm not this type of industry dude. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna get up. Oh yeah, we're gonna do this. And then with no intention of doing it. Like, if I tell you I'm gonna do it, I really am gonna do it, and I follow through on it. And as you could see, you know, I hit you up. I'm like, yo, I'm ready to do it.
You're here, man. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I know you had a long day too. You did an interview and came here.
I did Ari Spears. I did a bunch of errands this morning. It was a long day.
I love it, man. Well, thanks for coming through, man.
No doubt.
Vlad, go get the masterclass if you are a creator. And yeah, man, we look forward to some more years of greatness from you. When do you retire? You retiring any? Like, have you thought about that? You're just gonna keep going? Yeah, there it is.
I'll retire when I feel like retiring. Like I said, I can literally retire.
Would you sell the catalog?
Yeah, for the right price.
For sure.
Absolutely.
With all the catalog acquisition and music, I feel like YouTube's the next thing, right?
Why wouldn't I sell the catalog?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Right off into the sunset.
You know, I mean, unless you know, one of my kids wants to take it over,
right,
sincerely, and is really going to take it seriously, then maybe I might do that.
That'd be dope. I think that's going to be the new thing in the next 5-6 years. People are going to start buying YouTube catalog. And
I mean, I haven't had offers, but there are these companies that give you like advances.
Yes.
You know about that?
I do.
Spotter, I think, is one of the companies.
That company I told you about earlier, they were like, yeah, and if you need us to give you an advance on your YouTube fund.
I got a... What did I get? I got a $750,000 offer for, like my back YouTube catalog for a certain number of years. But once I started doing the math, I realized you're going to take like a 25% interest rate on this money they give you up front.
Oh, so essentially,
yeah,
they offered you that as an advance on your back catalog.
Exactly.
But they're going to make...
by the time they recoup...
It's like a record deal.
They're going to... About $1 million is going to be made until I get that back.
Right. It's like a record deal.
It's like a record... It's like a publishing deal.
Right.
Not so much a record deal, but a publishing deal. Right.
You're taking advance on your pub.
Advance, but they're taking a cut off the back end.
Right.
And I just started looking at it going like...
I'm good. I don't need it. Unless you needed it.
Well, I could go get a loan.
Right.
For a way lower percentage than this, and I don't have to connect my catalog to it. And if I really needed the money, I just do that.
Makes sense.
I think a lot of people are just, when they see money in front of them, they just grab it. And a lot of times that's not a good business decision.
There it is, Vlad. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
Boom.